เ From 1,400 hectares of land in a tiny village named MJU, it became a legend of innovation for the sustainable agricultural development of Thai people. "81 years ago, MJU University was founded as a teaching school in northern Thailand for the integrated knowledge of agriculture. It has cultivated the seeds of agricultural wisdom ever since to save Thailand's precious roots. Now, MJU University is a leading university in educating its students to have outstanding qualifications, in-depth knowledge, work efficiency, and hardworking perseverance. MJU University has thrived and has become an internationally recognized leading university of agricultural excellence due to its strong vision for development and teaching which emphasizes both theoretical knowledge and practical skills to promote professional entrepreneurship in agriculture because agriculture is the origin of Thai life and economy. At present, the university has expanded to 3 campuses as follows: MJU University Chiang Mai Campus, MJU University Phra Campus, and MJU University Chumphon Campus. In order to lay a strong foundation of teaching to become an excellent university in agriculture worldwide, a strong curriculum is necessary. MJU University offers all 3 levels of higher education, bachelor, master, and doctoral degrees, and consists of 14 faculties and schools. The Faculty of Agricultural Production, the Faculty of Business Administration, the Faculty of Science, the Faculty of Economics, the Faculty of Liberal Arts, the Faculty of Engineering and Agro-Industry, the Faculty of Animal Science and Technology, the Faculty of Architecture and Environmental Design, the Faculty of Fisheries Technology and Aquatic Resources, the Faculty of Information and Communication, the School of Administrative Studies, the School of Tourism Development, the School of Renewable Energy, and the Graduate School. In addition to focusing on student development, MJU University emphasizes strategical research for building and developing agricultural innovation in areas such as rice research and organic agriculture, as well as providing academic services to society. Although MJU University is an agriculturally based higher education institute, the university also aims to be a learning center that connects with people, communities, and nations in everyday life. The university's aim is to become a university of life, to serve the global community. In order to accomplish this, MJU University has drawn a strategic roadmap with 3 stages. 2012 to 2017, become an organic university. For the first 5-year plan of MJU University, its strategy is to become a leading university in organic agriculture. By the year 2017, the university aims to be an organic university with the development of organic agricultural education, researchers and experts, and networking for organic agriculture in ASEAN. 2018 to 2023. Become a green university. By the year 2023, after accomplishing its status as an organic university, MJU University will further develop into and be a green university with the development of researchers and specialists for renewable energy and the reduction of waste disposal and carbon emissions. 2024 to 2029. Become an eco-university. At the end of the master plan, or by the year 2029, MJU University will reach the status of eco-university for sustainable development in all aspects of life. All in all, MJU University is a pioneer of agricultural education and is dedicated to use its wisdom for the good of the nation. We have paved the foundation for excellence in agriculture at an international level.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second International Mahseer Conference. Today we are here in Phang Son Kyaw Lotus, Chiang Mai, Thailand. My name is Dr. Napat Renapakun. Oh my goodness. My name is Dr. Napat Renapakun from Department of Digital Communication, Faculties of Information and Communication, MJU University.
My name is Kanokwan Sampan, the lecturer of MJU University from the Faculty of Liberal Arts, MJU University.
We are so happy to have all of you here together with us today. Actually, as I know, you have been already here since the 11th of February and will be stay together with us until 15th of February 2020. What is the wonderful number of year, and I think this is the lucky year and bring all of us to be here together, and we're gathering and share your experiences in the latest finding in the research related with this conference.
Yes, this event will be held for 5 days, 11 to 15 February 2020. This year, this conference is hosted by MJU University, which will be held 11 to 15 February 2020 at the Lotus Phang Son Kyaw Hotel in Chiang Mai, Thailand. This conference follows the first International Mahseer Conference that was held in Para, Bhutan in December 2018 and will include oral presentations, a poster stations, and a roundtable workshop, as well as post-conference cultural trips and a 3-day field excursions to the Mae Ngau River, Mae Hong Son province.
Yeah, and as we all have already know that this conference brought together the research biologists, resource manager, conservation professionals, and river stakeholders to present your latest finding and also conservation strategy concerning in Mahseer species. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is the time for us to start our conference. At this time, we have a lot of representatives of our university and our partner to give the special speech and welcome those of you.
Okay, on this occasion, I would like to invite the Associate Professor Dr. Apinan Suwanarak, the Director of this ceremony, the Second International Mahseer Conference 2020, to kindly deliver the opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Apinan.
Hello, good morning again. Yes, Mr. President, and our distinguished guest coming here. Is it indeed a great honor, a pleasure for me to welcome the participants from from 15 countries around the world, from 3 continents, from the States, also from Europe and from Asia. This conference is entirely funded from Fish Conservation Foundation, International Fish Section of American Fish Society, Himalayan River United, World Wildlife Foundation, Mahseer Trust, World Fish Migration Foundation, International Financial Corporation, World Bank, Fishery Department of Thailand, also Thailand's Enterprise Company and MJU University. The main object of this conference is to allow the participants to share and gain valuable experience into the theme of the first session, the emerging advance in Mahseer taxonomy, biology, and research. The second session, the threats to Mahseer, mitigation and conservation. The third session, recreational, angling, and community-based conservation. And the last session for the human dimension of Mahseer. And field trip options are available including International Park for the Royal Project, and Metang River for rafting and sightseeing for the conservation. Lastly, to Mangao River Ecological Study. Evening option offer our guests with the power of the river movie. This conference allows the participants to share, expand, and develop their academic and social skills in Mahseer and related fields. It is also significantly emphasized that in this conference participants are encouraged to broaden and strengthen their social fieldworks. For this conference program, the 120 participants come from 15 countries, including Bhutan, Nepal, India, Pakistan, Myanmar, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, United States of America, England, Germany, Canada, Spain, Vietnam, and Thailand. This conference officially starting yesterday for our warm welcome until to 18, 2020, covering 8-day period. The conference program consists the first one, special presentation from biodiversity and research in Thailand and river fish, current study on Thailand Mahseer by Dr. Aaron. And second group, the plenary session opening on migratory fish by Dr. Sab Hogan. And keynote speaker, the first current status of Mahseer taxonomy, 200 years and still confused, by Dr. Rajiv from India. Trees and opportunities of Asian river, fish and people by Dr. Mark Everard. Current status of Mahseer fisheries across the region by Derek Dusa from India. Holistic environment from modeling to design a basin-wide production program for the golden Mahseer by Wagah from Pakistan. And we have 2 blanket speakers. The first one, Cybernet of Southeast Asia, the Mahseer contact and their status by Dr. Chawalit. The transboundary concerns of proposed Lower Mekong Basin hydropower cascade to fish and fishery in Thailand perspective by Professor Tuan Thong. And we have a roundtable workshop. First, what is the Mahseer? Region-wide Mahseer, taxonomy, nomenclature, and assessment. And second, the value of recreation fishing program for Mahseer across the region. The third, the assessing impact of invasive species. And the last of the roundtable session, developing educational and outreach program for Mahseer conservation. To recapitulate, the conference on the second International Mahseer Conference is the first international conference active by Faculty of Fishery Technology and Aquatic Resources, MJU University for this year. And several colleagues that sponsor for this conference, such as MJU University. Thank you for FCF, the Fish Conservation Foundation, International Fish Section of the American Fish Society, Himalayan River United, World Wildlife Foundation, Mahseer Trust, World Fish Group, International Financial Corporation, World Bank, Thailand Outdoor, Forest Coffee, Fishery Department of Thailand, and MJU University. For the implementation of fish scientists develop cooperation programs in the neighboring countries and other regions of the world through. This is international activities. On behalf of MJU University, I would like to explain our thanks and appreciation to all of sponsors to give us a share in their humble endeavor. I wish I will represent of enjoyable to stay here in Chiang Mai as well as the great trip to Mae Hong Son. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Apinan Suwarnarak, for your wonderful welcome speech. And ladies and gentlemen, for next, I would like to welcome our beloved President, Associate Professor Dr. Weerapon Thongma, the acting president of MJU University, to give his speech for the welcome ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a round of applause.
The Director General, Department of Livestock from Bhutan, the Director of Inland Fish, Department of Division of Fishery in Thailand, and of course our Inspector from Department of Fishery, Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperation. And of course, with our friend from what they call the Group Photo, Fishery Conservation Foundation, the Dean of Fishery Technology and Aquaculture Resources in MJU University, very long name. Of course, with our keynote speaker, Excellency, our honor lecturer or researcher in Mahseer, we call Mahseer or fish. I just asked my inspector that how many of Mahseer? They have golden Mahseer, they have chocolate Mahseer, like that. In Thailand, we call pa phuang. In Thailand, we don't eat it because sometimes we think this from the God. especially if you go to Mae Hong Son, we have Puang Hin, right? They call Puang Hin in Thailand. It's also mature. And we could not eat it because we think that they come from the God. Very beautiful color. But golden mature in Bhutan, some they call the tiger of the river, right? Tiger of the river, very big fish. Anyway, you see from our video, Major University is just the last, the own 61 years, maybe. But right now we, no, 80, we have the 81 years. But right now we are already 86 years of our university. We try to become the organic, really organic agriculture in Thailand or in ASEAN. And we move over to green university and agroecology university in the future. Right now we are the biggest who plant marijuana. More than 10,000 marijuana in our university for the medicine, not for recreation. But I hope in the future, maybe you can make for fish, feed for the fish in the future. I don't know. Maybe they will relax and happy in their life. We hope that during you stay in Major University, you have not just only in Chiang Mai, you will go to Mae Hong Son, right? I heard from Dr. Apinan, the director of conference, you will see some of our river, Ping River, Mae Tang River, and of course in Mae Hong Son, in Ngau River, right? In Mae Hong Son. You see not just only academic, but we can learn about our Thai culture. But sorry for this time, it's really good, not convenient for our tourists who come to Thailand. Because I think you know the problem about Corona right now. But just only beware, be careful yourself. I hope that during you stay here, it's not long time, just only how many days? 7 days? 8 days, right that. But you have 2 eyes. You will see some of good thing or bad thing of Thailand because we not perfect. And I don't know, you will guide them to our university or not. Just only 1 day, right? Please come to see our university. The eldest agriculture university in Thailand. 86 years for this year. But we are come step by step. From the school to the college to institutes and become our university like that. But we are 86 years already. We hope you will enjoy and will come. And I hope that just only one, I don't know, sometime you just first day or first time that you come to Thailand. And some of not convenient, just let it here. Huh? Good thing you just bring back to your country and hope that sharing together, learning together is very important for our conference. I will put the mark here for 3 things. Meeting together is beginning. We are beginning because we come to meeting here. Keeping together is progress. If we keep contact together, we will progress of our work with Marshall. And if we working together, we will have success in our life, in our work, in our duty. I hope that I will see you again in the next conference. And please, you see the photo here. I don't know how much, but you can vote. Up to you. Start from 5,000 maybe. Dr. Joko, the dean, of 1,000. 1,000 or 1 million? 1 million give. So up to you. You should start, and I hope that this is from our lecturer from architecture who draw the picture. So please, this is พวง right, Marshall right. ใช่ไหมปลาอะไรปลาพวงนะโอเค just this is he just draw by himself maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks that he tried to do for us. So hope that sharing, learning together, and working together, will become success in our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weerapon Thoma, Acting President of Major University. He always delivered a wonderful speech. Give a little funny, but yeah. And as he said, this is so what they call only one masterpiece of the world. So maybe you would like to collect it back to your hometown. Ladies and gentlemen, as the president said, maybe some of you, this is the first time for you to visit Chiang Mai, or maybe the first time for you in Thailand. But some of them, and some of you have been already visit us for several times. Maybe you have been seeing a lot of Thai dance show, and maybe you know that we have around 5 parts of Thailand that we have different culture. In here, Chiang Mai area was kingdom before, which is so-called Lana Kingdom. We have our own culture. We have our own languages. We have our own alphabet. But the dance that you will see today, it's so unique. And I can guarantee you that this will be the first time for you to see the show, because this show, it's specially produced and practiced especially for you, and this is a signature of our university. We collect the dance from original dances from original type in this area. Actually, this dance have very long name. I think it's mean the blessing of God of the rain, the golden age of agriculture, and the blooming flowers of Major University. I think you already want to see this dance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our student who will give bless for you in Thai dance.
สามัคคีไมตรีแก่กาพิไพผลตัวหนแหล่งลาขังภูมิปัญญาละเมินมามากล้ำต่างคนต่างมาช่วยกันคืดสร้างละห้องบนต่างเที่ยวห่มฟ้าผู้ดอยเขาเขียวนำนึ่งใจเดียวผมเกี่ยวคอ สินงามทรัพย์ในดินกินบ่หูเทียงแหล่งศึกษาคัดเก่าของเพียงหล่อเลี้ยงลูกหลานชาวบ้านมวลชนมหาลัยชีวิตแหล่งผลิตผลขึ้นเป็นสากลยิ่งยนต์ไก่ไก่งานนักบอกเกยค่าโคงานนักบอกเกยค่าโค
Although our university don't have faculty or school of art performance, but we have cultural club, and all the students are from different faculties, and they just participate this club as the volunteer. And as I told you, I can guarantee you that you will not have chance to see this dance again if you not visit us again, or you will not invite us to visit your country. Ladies and gentlemen, we still have the special speech to welcome you today, and as you are all of our friends. Today we also have the special friend as well, right?
Yes, today we are all from the diversity of the countries. As you know that all of you are from different countries, but we are interested in the same field. We were together, we share our opinions, and today, as you know that we become a long friend together. Moreover, we also become friends with the Bhutan country as well. Thank God that Bhutan got the scholarship from the EU, and it is very appreciated that Bhutan chose us to be one part of their country to provide all the courses to their officials. Okay, please welcome Dr. Tachi Sandup, Director General Department from Livestock Bhutan, to give our speech today. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a welcome to Dr. Tachi Sandup.
as Ajahn Nat already told you that last few years, the Kingdom of Bhutan got the fund from EU to train their officer, especially in Ministry of
Agriculture and Forest.
Thank you very much. And they visit us last few years, and maybe this year we also will have special course for their executive team as well in MJU University. And it's our honor to have Dr. Tachi to be here with us and also give the speech to all of us today.
Thank you very much, Madam. Sawasdee Krap. Mr. President, Professor Varapon of MJU University, Professor Apinum, Director of the Second International Mahseer Conference, Dr. Sangha, Director, Department of Fishery, Dean, Dr. Philip from the Fishery Foundation Conservation, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed participants. It is indeed a great honor for all of us here to be invited to the Second International Mahseer Conference here at Chiang Mai, Thailand. First of all, I would like to convey the best wishes and greetings for my Minister of Agriculture and Forest, and for my Secretary, Minister of Agriculture and Forest. My Secretary actually had to attend this, but he could not make it due to prior commitments made quite some time ago. Therefore, I'm here today on behalf of my Secretary. I think one of our major responsibilities here is to hand over the baton of the first ever held Mahseer Conference in Paro, Bhutan. But before I do that, I'd like to say a few words. I'll not take much of your time. I think it's important to set the context. Let me say something about fishery in Bhutan and perhaps similar in the region in Asia. I think our country, a small country like Bhutan, is definitely endowed with rich aquatic resources. Mahseer in Bhutan is called a sernya in our language. Basically, when you translate it, it's called a golden fish. It is not just an endangered species in our country, but held by high esteem from a cultural perspective and from a religious perspective. This is the reason why Mahseer in Bhutan is a protected species and put under Schedule 1 category of the forestry and nature conservation rules and regulations of the Royal Government of Bhutan. Now there are a lot of socio-economic developments in Bhutan, and fishery definitely contributes to that. But the problem is with so many development activities coming upon, for example, hydropower projects, dam constructions, stone and sand mining, construction of roads and bridges are now threatening the state of Mahseer, the ecology of Mahseer, and the entire ecosystem. That's why Bhutan is very conscious of the aquatic ecosystem in our country. Further, this situation also is, I must be honest, also is aggravated by illegal fishing, which has become rampant in our country. Illegal fishing is a really serious threat as people use different fishing gears, such as dynamite fishing, different kinds of nets, electroshocking, river diversion, and this we feel is detrimental to the fish and to the overall ecosystem. In our country, in terms of aquatic management and conservation, fishing in the rivers of Bhutan is illegal, especially for commercial purposes. But with various interventions by development partners like Dr. David, Julie et al., Marlis, Douglas et al., we have initiated something called community-based capture fisheries, not just for the socio-economic benefits, but also to benefit our conservation purposes and for sustainable utilization of our aquatic resources. As of now, we have developed around 7 community-based fisheries on a pilot scale. Other fishery programs include recreational fishing, but only in selected water bodies. For example, trout angling in Bhutan. I think it's important to know, I think different countries have different systems. In Bhutan, in terms of institutional arrangement, because I think institutional arrangement is very important, not only in terms of research, but for development and for conservation. And we need to be very clear as to how we implement our policies. We can decide a lot of policies, but implementation is important. And just to share Bhutan's this scenario, in terms of institutional arrangement in Bhutan, we have something called the National Environmental Commission of Bhutan, which is the apex body for all natural resources. The Department of Forestry and Park Services is the competent authority that regulates and monitors the utilization of natural resources. And the Department of Livestock, which I represent, is the technical arm for all livestock development and fishery development in the country. Therefore, we have a very good institutional arrangement among all these partners. And I think this is very important, not only for livestock, but for fishery development in Bhutan. So we are all on board. Let me say something very important. I think this International Mahseer Conference I would like to put on board. I think the mover and shaker of the International Mahseer Conference is definitely the Fishery Conservation Foundation, with the stewardship, leadership, and proactiveness of Dr. David and Julie and WWF, both in Bhutan and the US. Thank you so much. I salute you guys. It was somewhere in 2016 where we signed a small memorandum of understanding with the Fishery Conservation Foundation and the Minister of Agriculture and Forest to have a small research in a few selected rivers of Bhutan. Interestingly, during the course of research, ideas conceived. And Dave and Julie suggested, how about having, in 2018, having an International Mahseer Conference? It was never held in the world. And I think Bhutan was very honored when such a suggestion was put. And therefore, in 2018, after this was conceived, we held a conference in Paro in Bhutan, and we were honored to have many fish biologists, scientists, conservationists from the region and across the globe who shared the research findings, concerns, solutions, and conservation strategies. I think the first International Mahseer Conference, which was held in Bhutan, had many impacts, and it has been put of great use. I think many of us here, I think I recognize many of you who did attend our conference, and I'm very happy to see you guys again here. I think the conference, first of all, was important. It was a first in trying to create more awareness on the need for mahseer conservation and aquatic management among many decision makers that were there in Bhutan. I think many of us also, again, both scientists, researchers, academics, policymakers, also realizing the threats of a lot of socio-economic interventions that we do in terms of hydropower projects. It is good, but also it is a threat. As I mentioned earlier, various development activities like stone and sand mining, river training, road construction, illegal fishing, and many other things. But what is important is, I think, the conference reminded to all scientists, researchers, academics, policymakers, that I think it is very important to know that we need to have more proper and adequate information and data, the need for more scientific studies and research. I think this has been noted by many decision makers in Bhutan and also the various participants that attended the conference there. Now, I think it's very important in the first conference, it became very clear that we need to have a common understanding an agreement among all different agencies that we need to work collaboratively. And that's where, as Professor Apikum mentioned, I think towards the end of the conference, there's a roundtable meeting where we need to work together, collaborate together, and put synergy together, and we can be catalysts. I think most of us have our strengths in our own domain, and once we come together, and I think it is a very good intervention for the second international conference to have such a thing. I think I would also like to put on board, as I mentioned, the mover and shaker of this was Dave Julie from the Fishery Concern Foundation. But we are also in the process of time, we were able to develop very good linkages with the University of Arkansas. Of course, Dr. Michael Douglas is not here, but I saw Dr. Marlis Douglas. Thank you so much. I think you have been one of our pioneers in terms of doing fish biodiversity study in Bhutan. Collaborative study is going on, research is going on, and for instance, a proposal on eDNA has been developed and we will be working on. But at the same time, I think we have been able to also develop very good linkages with major university, Thailand, with the support of the president, Professor Varapon, president of MJU, Professor Apinum, and his dedicated professionals. I think we have trained many of our staff from Bhutan, both from the natural resources and in fisheries. So thank you so much. And we have signed a MOU recently, and we really appreciate major university, the government of Thailand. Just to conclude, from the first Mahseer Conference, I think there were major resolutions, and I will hand over the baton to Professor Apinam. But what is important during that time, just a few words. They recommended that in Bhutan, definitely, we need to amend our forest protection and nature conservation rules and regulation, which is in process and which has been just submitted to the parliament. Actually, our parliament session is ongoing, so the politicians, the members of parliament will further deliberate on that. For example, we have recommended a delineation of Mahseer and trout water for management in Bhutan. A clear delineation is required. Also, we have recommended a promotion and development of community-based fishery program as one of the strategies to reduce illegal fishing. Fisheries should be used as a resources, but not in an illegal way. So it's all community-based, which is for the benefit of the community. And also protection of fish spawning areas and other important habitats. In terms of policy, we have recommended, and I hope other countries can also maybe have take some ideas from us, for rational river stocking of fish for stock enhancement and conservation. So we need to have a rational stock fishing. And definitely that whatever we do, that we need to ensure there is less or no impact of aquaculture on natural aquatic resources. And definitely we have mentioned very clear in our rules, which is in the parliament, there is no escapement of aquaculture fish to our natural resources. Effluent water is within the permissible limit, so the National Environment Commission actually monitors this. And we really, in a way, restrict introduction of exotic fish species without proper and adequate research. Now, under the leadership of the government of Thailand and the chairman, Dr. Apinum, of the second International Mahseer Conference, and with a very high level of support from the president, Dr. Varapon of MJU, I would now like to hand over the baton of the first International Mahseer Conference held in Paro, Bhutan. And definitely, I wish you all success. Kap and Kap. Okay, so this is the baton, the major resolution, the declarations of Paro, Bhutan. I have it here, sir. And this is the conference proceedings. Thank you.
ใช่ไหมคะโอเค At this time, I would like to invite all of you to have group photo together for the opening ceremony. Sorry. It's okay. Just to practice, to make all of you get ready for the photo. Okay. So I'll give you a few minutes for lipstick or powder or comb your hair. But for that short time, I would like to invite Mr. Sayan Iemrod, the Inspector General of Department of Fishery Thailand, who will deliver his speech about the Department of Fishery Thailand, together with the education, research, and conservation of Mahseer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sayan.
เรียนท่านอธิการบดีท่านคณบดีนะท่านคณาจารย์นะนักวิจัยแล้วก็ท่านผู้มีเกียรติที่เคารพทุกท่านครับผมต้องขออนุญาตนะฮะนำเสนอเป็นภาษาไทยนะฮะเพราะภาษาอังกฤษไม่แข็งแรงฮะนะและอีกอย่างหนึ่งไม่อยากจะอ่านคำกล่าวที่เขาเขียนให้นะฮะอยากจะแชร์ประสบการณ์นะครับเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของปลาพลวงมากกว่านะครับครับสำหรับมหาลัยแม่โจ้นั้นเนี่ยนะฮะมีความผูกพันนะครับกับกรมประมงเนี่ยมายาวนานเพราะว่ามหาลัยแม่โจ้เนี่ยนะฮะได้ผลิตบัณฑิตหรือบุคลากรเนี่ยนะฮะเพื่อมาเป็นกำลังพลในการรับใช้งานของกรมประมงนะฮะเพื่อบริการเกษตรกรหรือบริการชาวประมงเนี่ยนะฮะมาเป็นเวลาช้านานนะครับหน้าที่หลักนะครับของกรมประมงเนี่ยนะฮะก็คงจะเป็นที่ทราบกันดีนะฮะว่ามีทั้งเรื่องของการศึกษาวิจัยนะฮะการส่งเสริมอาชีพและเรื่องของการบริหารจัดการทรัพยากรสัตว์น้ำนะครับงานศึกษาวิจัยเนี่ยนะครับหลายชิ้นงานเนี่ยนะครับเราทำงานร่วมกันกับสถาบันการศึกษานะครับและมหาลัยแม่โจ้เนี่ยนะครับก็เป็นหนึ่งในนั้นนะครับซึ่งคนของกรมประมงเองเนี่ยนะครับนะที่จบจากมหาลัยแม่โจ้เนี่ยนะฮะก็ได้ร่วมการศึกษาวิจัยนะฮะอยู่ตลอดนะครับในงานวิจัยสำคัญของกรมประมงนะฮะจากที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยนะครับการศึกษาวิจัยงานเกี่ยวกับประมงที่โดดเด่นในภาคเหนือเนี่ยนะฮะก็มีด้วยกันหลายๆเรื่องนะครับเรื่องแรกเลยเนี่ยนะครับที่โด่งดังไปทั่วโลกนั่นก็คือเรื่องของการเพาะพันธุ์ปลาบึกนะซึ่งเป็นปลาน้ำจืดที่ใหญ่ที่สุดนะฮะในโลกนะฮะกรมประมงเนี่ยประสบผลสำเร็จนะฮะในการเพาะพันธุ์เมื่อปี 2527 นะฮะนะเป็นครั้งแรกนะฮะแล้วหลังจากนั้นเนี่ยก็มีการศึกษาวิจัยแล้วก็ต่อยอดเพาะกันมาเรื่อยๆจนกระทั่งบัดนี้เนี่ยนะครับงานเพาะพันธุ์หรือการศึกษาวิจัยเรื่องการเลี้ยงปลาบึกเนี่ยนะฮะสามารถนะทำในลักษณะของเชิงพาณิชย์ได้แล้วนะครับอีกเรื่องหนึ่งครับ นะฮะอาจจะไม่ใช่เป็นงานวิจัยนะฮะแต่เป็นเรื่องที่กรมประมงเนี่ยนะยังทำการส่งเสริมต่อยอดไปไม่ถึงนะฮะก็อยากจะเรียนเชิญนะฮะนักวิจัยทุกท่านเนี่ยโดยเฉพาะมหาลัยแม่โจ้เนี่ยได้ช่วยกันผลิตนะหรือศึกษานั่นก็คือการเลี้ยงปลากดหลวงหรือปลากดอเมริกันนะฮะหรือที่เรารู้จักกันในนามของปลาแชนนอนแคทฟิชเนี่ยนะครับซึ่งปลาตัวเนี้ยนะครับเป็นปลาที่ได้รับความนิยมนะฮะจากเกษตรกรนะฮะในประเทศไทยโดยเฉพาะเกษตรกรที่เลี้ยงปลาในกระชังเนี่ยนะฮะจำนวนมากนะครับแต่ว่าหน่วยงานของกรมประมงเนี่ยนะครับผลิตลูกปลาเนี่ยได้ไม่มากพอนะครับนะเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยก็ทำให้การส่งเสริมเรื่องของปลากดหลวงหรือปลากดอเมริกันเนี่ยนะฮะก็ชะงักงันฮะบางปีเนี่ยนะมีปัญหาผลิตลูกพันธุ์ไม่ได้เลยก็มีนะครับนะก็ต้องขอฝากไว้ด้วยนะครับส่วนอีกตัวหนึ่งก็คงจะเป็นพระเอกของวันนี้นะครับก็คือในเรื่องของปลาพรวงนะฮะอยากจะนำเรียนทุกท่านในที่ประชุมว่าปลาพรวงเนี่ยนะฮะเป็นปลาในพระราชดำรินะครับของสมเด็จพระราชินีในรัชกาลที่9นะฮะท่านได้มีพระราชดำริให้กรมประมงเนี่ยนะศึกษานะค้นคว้าในการเพาะขยายพันธุ์แล้วก็ในการที่จะอนุรักษ์นะปลาตัวนี้นะในคราวที่เสด็จที่ทักษิณราชนิเวศนะครับในนามของปลาพวงชมพูนะครับซึ่งเป็นปลาที่มีรสชาติดีนะครับเป็นปลาที่นิยมบริโภคแล้วก็มีราคาสูงนะฮะแต่อย่างไรก็ตามฮะปลาตัวนี้เนี่ยนะครับในประเทศไทยเนี่ยนะฮะที่รู้จักกันโดยทั่วไปเนี่ยนะครับมี2ชนิดด้วยกันฮะนะชนิดแรกเลยเนี่ยก็คือทางภาคใต้ฮะเรียกว่าปลาพวงชมพูนะครับซึ่งได้กล่าวไปแล้วนะครับอีกชนิดหนึ่งฮะมีมากทางภาคเหนือนะฮะแถบจังหวัดแม่ฮ่องสอนเชียงใหม่นะครับเรียกว่าปลาพวงหินนะซึ่งมีลักษณะใกล้เคียงกันอาจจะแตกต่างกันบ้างที่สีของตัวนะฮะแล้วก็ในรายละเอียดอะไรลายข้างๆตัวเนี่ยนะฮะอาจจะแตกต่างกันบ้างนะครับแต่อย่างไรก็ตามเนี่ยนะฮะปลาทั้งสองตัวเนี้ยนะฮะมีความสำคัญนะครับแล้วกรมประมงเนี่ยนะฮะก็ได้ทำการเพาะขยายพันธุ์นะฮะปลาพวงทั้งสองตัวเนี่ยสำเร็จแล้วทั้งคู่นะครับแต่อย่างไรก็ตามเนี่ยนะฮะก็ยังมีปัญหาในเรื่องของการที่จะทำให้เป็นเชิงพาณิชย์นะครับณขณะนี้เนี่ยอยากจะนำเรียนกับทุกท่านว่ากรมประมงเนี่ยเพาะได้ก็จริงแต่ว่าเราคงเพาะนะครับแล้วก็ปล่อยในธรรมชาติเพื่อรักษาธรรมชาติให้คงอยู่นะฮะพูดถึงในเรื่องของการอนุรักษ์เนี่ยปลาพรวงเนี่ยนะครับนะบรรพบุรุษไทยเนี่ยนะฮะได้ปลูกฝังลูกหลานเนี่ยนะครับให้อนุรักษ์ปลาพรวงเนี่ยนะฮะมาตั้งนมนานกาเลแล้วนะฮะยังจะเห็นได้จากปลาเนี่ยที่อยู่ในถ้ำปลาหรืออยู่ในที่อะไรน้ำไหลต่างๆเนี่ยนะฮะคนโบราณเนี่ยจะบอกว่าปลาอันเนี้ยนะครับเป็นปลาเจ้านะฮะห้ามจับมาบริโภคนะฮะเนี่ยฮะเราก็ถูกปลูกฝังมาตลอดฮะจะเห็นว่าเดี๋ยวนี้เนี่ยนะครับบริเวณที่มีปลาพรวงอยู่เนี่ยนะฮะโดยเฉพาะปลาพรวงหินในภาคเหนือเนี่ยนะครับเดี๋ยวนี้เนี่ยทางกรมอุทยานเนี่ยนะครับก็ได้ประกาศเป็นเขตอนุรักษ์นะฮะแล้วกรมประมงเนี่ยนะฮะ ก็ได้มีการอะไรประกาศบางพื้นที่ซึ่งเป็นพื้นที่ที่นอกเขตของอุทยานเนี่ยนะฮะเป็นเขตที่รักษาพันธุ์สัตว์น้ำนะฮะก็มีหลายแห่งด้วยกันก็ทำให้การอนุรักษ์ในเรื่องของปลาพลวงเนี่ยนะครับยังคงอยู่นะฮะสำหรับในภาคใต้นะครับในภาคใต้เนี่ยนะครับเราก็ได้มีการประกาศเขตที่เป็นพื้นที่นะฮะซึ่งเป็นที่อยู่ที่วางไข่นะฮะแล้วก็ที่เลี้ยงตัวอ่อนเนี่ยของปลาพวงอย่างหนึ่งครับนะฮะในความโชคร้ายนั่นก็คือกำเนิดนะฮะของปลาพุงชมพูเนี่ยก็คือป่าฮาราบาลาเนี่ยนะฮะในจังหวัดยะลาเนี่ยมันเป็นเขตอิทธิพลของโจรใต้ฮะนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยไม่มีใครเข้าไปฮะนะไม่มีใครเข้าไปจับปลาหรือไปอะไรทำอันตรายปลาได้เพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยอาจจะกล่าวได้ว่าโจรใต้เนี่ยที่ว่ามีปัญหาในเรื่องของความมั่นคงเนี่ยก็ช่วยอนุรักษ์ไอ้ปลาพวงชมพูตัวนี้ด้วยนะครับครับถ้าพูดถึงงานศึกษาวิจัยเนี่ยนะฮะในเรื่องของกรมประมงเนี่ยนะฮะเรามีการศึกษาวิจัยนะฮะไปใน2รูปแบบด้วยกันนะครับนะรูปแบบแรกเนี่ยเราศึกษาวิจัยสัตว์น้ำเนี่ยนะฮะเพื่อการเพาะเลี้ยงนะฮะอาจจะขยายไปถึงการเพาะเลี้ยงเชิงพาณิชย์นะครับอีกส่วนหนึ่งนะครับที่เราวิจัยก็คือวิจัยเพื่ออนุรักษ์นะฮะเพื่อที่จะรักษาพันธุ์สัตว์น้ำนะฮะชนิดนั้นๆไว้เนี่ยเพื่อความยั่งยืนนะครับพูดง่ายๆว่าตอนนี้เนี่ยนะฮะถึงแม้ว่าปลาพวงเนี่ยเราจะไม่สามารถทำในเชิงการค้าได้นะครับนะฮะหรือทำได้เนี่ยก็น้อยมากฮะอย่างปลาพวงชมพูเนี่ยเรามีการพูดกันว่าปลาพวงชมพูเนี่ยเกษตรกรที่เลี้ยงเนี่ยสามารถจำหน่ายได้กิโลละ 3,000 บาทถึง 5,000 บาทนะฮะแต่จริงๆแล้วเนี่ยการเลี้ยงเนี่ยนะฮะผลผลิตเนี่ยที่ได้เนี่ยค่อนข้างน้อยมากนะครับนะแต่ส่วนใหญ่เนี่ยเราจะเน้นในเรื่องของการอนุรักษ์มากกว่านะครับแล้วมันยังมีงานวิจัยทางด้านการประมงเนี่ยที่ยังท้าทายนักวิจัยเนี่ยนะฮะอีกมากฮะในเรื่องของการประมงนะครับเรายังมีสัตว์น้ำที่สำคัญเนี่ยนะฮะอีกหลายชนิดนะที่ยังไม่ได้มีการศึกษาวิจัยนะฮะและที่สำคัญที่สุดเนี่ยเรามีแหล่งน้ำขนาดใหญ่นะฮะโดยเฉพาะในภาคเหนือเนี่ยนะครับอีกมากฮะที่เรายังไม่ได้ศึกษาวิจัยว่าแหล่งน้ำเหล่านั้นเนี่ยจะทำยังไงให้เกิดผลผลิตทางด้านการประมงให้มากที่สุดนะครับทุกวันนี้เนี่ยกรมประมงเนี่ยก็แทบจะเป็นหน่วยงานหลักนะครับในการที่จะศึกษาวิจัยในการที่จะปล่อยพันธุ์สัตว์น้ำแล้วก็ศึกษาว่าสัตว์น้ำชนิดไหนนะฮะที่ปล่อยไปแล้วเนี่ยนะครับทำให้เกิดผลผลิตแล้วก็เป็นประโยชน์กับพี่น้องประชาชนมากที่สุดนะฮะจากประสบการณ์เนี่ยหรือจากการดำเนินงานของกรมประมงที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยนะฮะสัตว์น้ำที่ปล่อยลงไปในแหล่งน้ำนะฮะแล้วก็น่าจะให้ผลผลิตแล้วก็มูลค่าสูงสุดเนี่ยก็น่าจะเป็นปลาบึกนะฮะกับกุ้งกำกรามนะฮะครับแต่อย่างไรก็ตามฮะสัตว์น้ำ2ชนิดเนี้ยไม่สามารถที่จะแพร่พันธุ์หรือขยายพันธุ์ได้เองฮะนะมันจะต้องเกิดจากกรมประมงหรือหน่วยงานราชการหรือมนุษย์เนี่ยไปเพาะแล้วก็มาปล่อยนะครับครับนี่ฮะคืองานของกรมประมง นะครับที่ท้าทายแล้วก็เป็นงานที่รอความเมตตาจากนักวิจัยนะฮะผู้ทรงคุณวุฒิทั้งหลายฮะที่จะมาร่วมกันศึกษาวิจัยทำอย่างไรเนี่ยจึงจะให้เกิดผลผลิตในแหล่งน้ำเนี่ยให้มากที่สุดนะครับครับสำหรับการประชุมวิชาการในวันนี้นะครับก็ขอให้การประชุมเนี่ยจงประสบผลสำเร็จนะฮะตามวัตถุประสงค์อย่างไรก็ตามฮะงานของกรมประมงเนี่ยนะครับก็ยังรอความเมตตาจากคณาจารย์นะฮะหรือผู้ทรงคุณวุฒิทั้งหลายฮะที่จะมาร่วมกันพัฒนามาร่วมกันบริหารจัดการนะฮะเพื่อให้เกิดความมั่นคงมั่งคั่งแล้วก็ยั่งยืนในทรัพยากรสัตว์น้ำนะครับเพื่อให้ประชาชนอยู่ดีกินดีครับนะขอบคุณมากครับ
Thank you very much, Mr. Saiyan, the Inspector General of Department of Fisheries, Thailand. Although he spoke in English, but unfortunately that our subtitle in English is invisible, so we have the special translator. Ladies and gentlemen, Assistant Professor Dr. Chanakan Jitmanat will translate in English for you.
Good morning, everyone. Let me give a few minutes to get what Mr. Sayan Yamrod, the General Fishery Auditor, that deliver what we have and what he needs from us to help him. Actually, the Department of Fishery, Minister of Agriculture and Cooperative Thailand have worked together with MJU University for a long time and also work with government officer. He highlight the three main research that in northern Thailand. The main species is the Mae Khong giant catfish, and Mae Khong giant catfish is success in breeding since 1984, and the gap analysis that he would like to raise that he would like to conduct promote of channel catfish. This we still shortage in fingering, and we don't have enough of fingering, and he would like for maybe in the back, like we have a young student from Chiang Kham school that could help us maybe come to study fishery and help us to produce more channel catfish. And the key point that's a highlight for this conference also for the Mahseer. Mahseer actually is for the demand of Queen Sirikit that she went to the southern of Thailand and visit I think the Fishery Research Center and find out that Mahseer is a very important and also endangered species. So she tried to promote, and I think that they succeed in the breeding, but they still have a gap how to produce to commercialize. Maybe this conference we can share or we can exchange what you have and to help us how to make more Mahseer. And also for in the northern part of Thailand, we have a Mahseer also, maybe some kind of, they have many kind of the name, and you can hear from the conference also, like for Mahseer, maybe Mahseer or brook trout, I think. They rather similar or different. You can hear from the conference about the taxonomy later on after this, right? And this one, they might be different in the variety of characteristic and a little bit of color for that one. And the last for that he mentioned that about the actually Mahseer conservation have been conducted for years, and we have been taught that this one the fish from the God. That's why we cannot catch a lot of them and eat. We can give them for what you call for be a renewable resource, something like that. And for that part, that finally, he would like to invite him to be here and would like to have this conference success as you expect for this conference and can help us to work with Mahseer conservative and if it's possible we can do for commercial right. So that should be the conclude for his remark.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chanakan.
Thank you so much for Dr. Chanakan.
Dr. Chanakan ค่ะ
Yes, next I would like to invite Dr. David Phillips, the founder, the donator, the shareholder of Fisheries Conservation Foundation, to come in front of and give us a speech. Please welcome Dr. David Phillips.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're trying to get the AV going here. So, I'm here today representing the Fisheries Conservation Foundation, but I'm not alone. There are over half a dozen other members of our board and advisory council that are here talking and speaking, and a lot of them participated in the Bhutan meeting as well. And we're thrilled to be here at this second International Mahseer Conference, and we want to thank all of you. It's great to see this whole room filled. Thank you all for coming. And we want to certainly thank MJU University for hosting this conference. They have done a world great job here. But I also want to personally thank one special person, Appanen, for really putting in the yeoman's work here. He has done a huge task with his army of colleagues that are behind him, but he has really pulled this together. And let me tell you, this is not an easy thing to do, especially on short notice. I mean, there's 2 years between them on the calendar when you look at 2018 to 2020, but it was barely over 14 months. So this was a very quick turnaround, and he has done an amazing job. Thank you, Appanen, and I want everybody to give him a round of applause. Okay. Okay, so this is the second in a series. The first was in Paro, and now we're here in Chiang Mai, and that's phenomenal. I do want to acknowledge the fact that concern over Mahseer conservation has been going on for a number of years. And there are people in this room that have been working on Mahseer conservation long before I even knew how to spell the word. So this is, you know, there were lots of working groups, there were workshops, and lots of things going on. Formalizing this into a conference was one thing. Having a second one now means that now it's a formal series, which really elevates the concern and the level that we have for this. And I think that's important, and hopefully we can keep that all going. Let's see if this works. No, can I get the next slide? There aren't many, but which one do I hit? Yeah. Oh, you got to turn it on. That's helpful. There we go. Okay, good. It's not my ball game. I want to acknowledge too that it's interesting because the first little inkling of forming this conference was kind of buried in one of the last objectives of what's down here, which was the proposal that we put together with the Bhutan government and World Wildlife Fund Bhutan to start that research project that we began. And the proposal was submitted on Christmas Day in 2014. And in that, you could see we had the quote up there was organize and hold an international conference on Mahseer, aquatic biodiversity, and economic development. We were hoping to do that. We were kind of reasonably confident that the research project that we were getting involved with and was launched in March of 2015 would generate enough data that we could then attract people to come and hold a conference, which we really did. And there on the bottom is our Director General Tashi Samduk, myself, signing the documents with the Minister of Agriculture and Forests, Minister Yeshi, back in March of 2015, that really launched the project. And that project was probably the greatest adventure and research accomplishment that Julie and I and people from FCF have had. And we want to thank Bhutan and the ministry for kind of getting that all started and bringing us in, and it was a tremendous experience for us. And it kind of culminated in this conference back in Paro. Okay, so, and as Tashi showed you, we have a proceedings. There's a URL. If you want to, you can get it and download it, and there's a lot of great information in it. The scientific program was outstanding, as is the scientific program here will be outstanding. And so it was a tremendous meeting. But one of the best things to come out of it, too, was our meeting all of these other groups that are now sponsors of this conference. And so we've built up a great network of people that are concerned. And I think we're really starting to gain momentum to hopefully make a difference. One thing that we did on the last day was to hold this a roundtable workshop. And we had 6 different topics, so we broke into these different groups and really got sitting down after hearing all of the information for 3.5 days. Then we sat down and went through these. So we were talking about listing the threats to Mahseer and identifying mitigation options and then ranking them and prioritizing them, defining a national fish stocking policy. Tashi told you what Bhutan was doing with that. Describe a plan for enhancing community-based conservation efforts, constructing a research agenda for Mahseer conservation and management, suggest how to build capacity, and propose a model recreational fishing program. We discussed this in specifics in relation to Bhutan, but then also across the region as well to see how the different countries differed, et cetera. And this was a very valuable exercise. It came out with a bunch of recommendations, and Director General Tashi told you how much Bhutan has started to implement these recommendations, which is fabulous. So this meeting, we have a similar endeavor on the last day. I encourage you to come and attend. Bring your brains, bring your energy. And we're going to try to develop more of a product-oriented outcomes. So we're hoping to plan a project to clarify Mahseer taxonomy and nomenclature across the region. The second one is to promote the value, develop a strategy to promote the value of recreational fishing as a conservation tool. Third is to assess the impacts of non-native species and ways to control them. And Director General Tashi discussed that in relation to Bhutan as well. And to develop, then at the end, also to develop an education outreach programs to promote Mahseer conservation. So that's the thing outside the box. What can we do to help these things above it get better attention, but also just ways of bringing more knowledge to the local citizens and essentially globally to Himalayan river and Asian river conservation in general. Because the Mahseer conservation all depends on healthy rivers. And so it's all intertied, and we really need to keep that in mind. Coming out of that conference, too, we also developed this Bhutan Declaration, which is a series of statements that we all agreed on we could say. And let me quickly go through it. That illegal fishing and legal overfishing threaten native fish populations. Dams block fish migration. Habitat degradation impairs native fish. Fish stocking harms native fish populations. Lack of ecological information impedes successful management and conservation. Climate change threatens aquatic ecosystems. And society undervalues the services rivers provide to people, economies, and nature. And so we have developed this, and throughout this conference, we're going to hopefully talk about how we can get different countries across this region, wherever, to ratify this and move this forward. And hopefully it will become part of some agendas of the larger conservation meetings that happen globally. Through World Wildlife Fund will help push that, et cetera. So we're moving this along, and I want people to think about this and to comment on it and tell us how they think we should either amend it or move forward with it. Here we go. There we go. So I'll end with this picture, which is a lovely picture at the hotel and as part of the internet at the end of the International Mahseer Conference #1. It's the picture of all of the delegates. I think it's a spectacular picture. It's a great conference picture, but I challenge you to make a better conference picture, okay? So, and I think that's next on the agenda, if I'm not sure. We had our practice run, but now we're going to do it. Now we're going to do it for real. And I want to thank you all. Have lots of smiles here on the picture that we make, and feel free to intermingle and start talking with everyone from minute #1 on. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Dr. David. And as you already told us, this is the time, right, Dr. Pinan? Yeah. It's the time for group photo. So, ladies and gentlemen, how we will make it on the stage or selfie? I would like to make the half an hour to make a meeting with the photographer first. ถ่ายไง Selfie. Okay. จากบนเวทีขึ้นมานะตรงนี้ใช่ไหมคะ Okay. So the photographer will stand on the stage and took photo back this way. Is this the final decision? Okay, here we go. On the stage, please.
Thank you.
น้องมาเลย มาทีหลังเสียเปรียบนะ อยู่ด้านข้างเลนวายดึงหน้าอ้วนเนอะเอาเก้าอี้มาวางไว้ตรงหน้าบอเอาเก้าอี้มาวางไว้ข้างหน้าบอ Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the main camera will take 5 shots from our left to our right as the panorama. So you have to be still and smile and make sure that you are looking good. Start with the main camera first, then we'll take by mobile phone, okay? No, not really hard this day. We want some action freely. What do you want to do? Drum up? Drum up. Okay, drum up. The time of the conferences, you will be the superstar. ได้ไหมขอโทษนะคะมันเข้า นะ Okay, now it's time for the mobile phone. อันนี้ของใครเอ่ย Who's Okay. หมดยังเอ่ยแนทอันนี้ถ่ายหรือยังขอสุมาตะเจ้าขอโทษนะคะขอถอยหน่อยนะคะเอาเนอะโทษค่ะ everybody say Pepsi. 1, 2, 3, Pepsi. And 1, 2, 3, pizza. Okay. Shelter. Some of your camera cannot catch the photo, but you can share later. And whose phone? Whose phone here? Vivo? Have one mobile phone with me. Sorry. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a coffee break. So you can have a short break for 10 minutes. Now it is 10:42, so we'll back here again at 10:55. Okay? 5 to 11, then we'll start the next session. Okay, enjoy your coffee and tea.
แต่ว่าอาจารย์ไม่กินข้าวนะนี่จะไปสอนใช่ไม่อาจารย์ไม่แคนเซิลเลยเดี๋ยวอาทิตย์หน้ามันเสร็จแล้วมันปริญญาตรงหัวได้คู่ก็น่าจะได้คู่นี่ไม่เป็นนางหนองโอ้ยนางหนองของคณะศาสตร์เปล่าแกแล้วยายฝนเป็นโดนทั้งคู่ตัวแกส่วนคนได้เป็นโอ้ยใช่นางหนองคนคณะศาสตร์เราไม่ได้ทักคนที่ไม่เป็นแบบเน็บช้าตั้งปีแล้วอ่ะพูดกันนานเลยอ่ะคือแบบกลัวนางหนองลืมส่งไปไงปีแล้วมองพี่ตีพูดอันนั้นอ่ะโคเดียมอ่ะปีแรกนะเพิ่งมาเป็นปีที่แล้วที่กังวลสลับกับไอ้ที่รักไทยปุ้มอาจารย์ก็3 คนเนาะที่อ่านอ่ะ3 คนก่อนอ๋อปวมีหลายคน มันของแซมอะมันไม่มีด้านนานาชาติโดยตรงด้วยอ่ะใช่ปะนั่นแหละหนูก็เลยไม่รู้บางอันหนูก็เว้นหนูไม่รู้หนูจะเติมว่าไปตอบเลยวัดอะไรของแกก็ขับเพื่อนคณะไปมาโรงแล้วกันแต่ว่าเรื่องจำนวนทุนวิจัยอะไรอย่างงี้หนูไม่ได้ใส่ไปอะค่ะหรือว่าต้องใส่วะ งั้นหนูใส่ไปนั่นนะคะห้าด้านตามคำสั่งนะแต่ว่ามันจะมีงานนักศึกษาที่มันติดหนูมานิดนึงเพราะว่ามันเปลี่ยนเนาะทำให้พี่แซมแล้วอย่างเงี้ยค่ะแล้วมันคือบางงานของนักศึกษานี่คือแปลว่ากลยุทธ์ของพี่แซมครบละเช่นตัวอื่นได้อยู่ก็เลยใส่ไปค่ะโอเคดาวขอบคุณค่ะพี่ วันนั้นจำได้ไหมคะที่ตั้งแต่ต้นที่เราไปคุยกันหนูก็ไปคุยกับพี่แซมอะค่ะว่าวิชาการกับวิจัยมันจะเกี่ยวกันอยู่แล้วอะที่มันเป็นภาระงานของอาจารย์แต่ไม่รู้ว่าแต่ว่าบางคณะมันก็รวมนะก็ไม่เป็นไรก็ไม่ได้หายไปค่ะโอเคขอบคุณได้เลยเจ้าแต่ว่าถึงงานนี่บอกว่าอยู่ในเคาน์เตอร์ลงทะเบียนนี่ค่ะเจ้าได้เจ้าHi, time up, time's up, the time is up. We're gonna start the next session very soon. Salam.
Attention for the presenter who haven't yet give your poster. I mean the presenter in the poster section who haven't yet give the poster to the staff. Please send your poster to the staff at the register desk. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to back to your seats because we will have very handsome keynote speaker. Right?
Yes, right.
Okay, I think you guys enjoy your break already. Today, we also have special presentations. First of all, may I invite Associate Professor Dr. Aphinan Suwanarak, the director of the second International Mahseer Conference 2020. I would like to briefly introduce to you our special speaker, Dr. Aphinan. He graduated Doctor of Philosophy, Aquatic Ecology, Paul Sabatier University, Toulouse, France. He also graduated Doctor of Philosophy, Fisheries Science, Mahawitayalai, Ubon Ratchathani, Thailand. Today, he will give a speech about biodiversity and research of Thailand's river fisheries. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Aphinan Suwanarak.
Just good morning. Again, please. But now it's more relaxed for us. We just take a coffee. The coffee, as you like, you can drink along the day until you are here for 3 days. And also, we are working together with the local people to take care. Okay? And also, special thanks for my friend who are cultured the Mahseer in Sukhothai, maybe somewhere here, to bring the Mahseer to show you in aquarium tank. And also thank you for the fish of Thailand river fish. Many things we are talking. Many things we have done. We have 5 groups or 5 steps. Firstly, we're talking about information. We are starting a long time, around 25 years, and until now, we're working together with several groups. And also here, Thailand, one of the biodiversity hotspots in the world. We have so many fish. At least in Thailand, we have 1,200 species of fish. The freshwater one, for the freshwater fish. In Chiang Mai, we have few, but in several places. We are so lucky because in the eastern of Thai, is connected to the Mekong River. And also in the western of Thai, we are connected by the Salawin River and Myanmar. And then Thailand, between that, we have so many endemic species are in Thailand. And also, we are divided into around 6-7 parts. Firstly, is the Chapaya River Basin in the middle part. Here is the Mekong River in the east. In the western, here is the Salawin River belong to Tak and Mae Hong Son province that we have been to be on 16 and 17 we overnight there. And also in the southern part of Thailand and the eastern part of Thailand. Many landscape, many area we have done, and also many human activities belong to the river running water. And many times we are collecting the fish in several places. We take time to do. Maybe one of you, if you want to visit my collection, please, you can do that. And also for the taxonomy study, we study a fish, and now nearly to publish a new book. It's about the northern fish, Thai fish, but not yet finished because another thing to do more interesting than that. I think it's in nearby future we did. The freshwater Thai, that means around a half belong to Cybernidea mainly, and the second group is Siluridae. It looks like the same in several countries in Asia. And also the books now, the new one is coming, the fish of the northern Thai. It's a guidebook and easy use in the future, nearby future, because I think around June I will publish this one. And also we work in cooperation with several friends in Southeast Asia, in Laos, in Cambodia, in Vietnam, also in some of Myanmar, Malaysia, to working about the fish in Southeast Asia. And you can access to ffish.asia if you want to access. So many pictures inside. They support by NACO Foundation from Japan. And we are working for that for 6 years together with our colleague. And also some chapter to talking about the freshwater fish in Thailand, like Professor Tuan Tong is here. And also in several river drainage we have published. Today, but it did, fish from Ping River is gone. Later I will reprint again. But for the fish of Salawin River, free copy for you. If you want, you can take it in front of the register desk. A number of fish in the river to compare together in the northern part of Thailand, Mekong is a very high number, it's around 700 something. And also in Chao Phraya River, we have 300, 400 species of freshwater one, and Ping, and also in Salawin around to 100 something. Because in Salawin River, the border of Thai and Myanmar is very short time, very short distance, around 180 kilometers long, but not too long like in Mekong River, in Chao Phraya River, and small drainage. Because in Salawin River, why is very few species? Because the river bank is very steep, most steep in Thailand River. And also to compare the number of species, here is the number of genera is around 1,600 in Chao Phraya River, in Mekong River is around 200 genera. And also the number of species is around here. And in my book, in this book, the new copy will be published, which is very easy how to identify the fish. You can understand by picture, and several things I show by picture only. And this is the order belong to the fish in the northern part of Thailand. And also it's easy way how to rule like fish for the key. And we show the many details of a fish in this book. It's very it's one of the complete book in Thailand. Also another detail to looking for the adult and sub-adult and juvenile, because we have a time, we took a lot of photos and to compare. And also, for example, here is a lodge. This book talking about the lodge, but uses another character not following the former one, because it's more easy for the people who can. And the number when we are compare the fish in this area, to show something. For example, here in different drainage, different species composition. Here, different drainage. I show this one. And also, it's about the number of fish in some river. Now, we have discovered nearly all. And also, the number of fish we are here in Thailand is not too high like another, the dark one, the dark green. This is a very high number of species. And also, in the northern part of Thailand, we have a landlocked, like in Chapaya River, we have a lot of endemic species. Several rivers, several streams in the mountainous area, we have 1 or 2 species are endemic to the stream, that stream or more. For example, the loach, the stream loach, and Cryptotora is a Caesaridae, like the stream catfish. They are fixed into the mountainous area. The endemic species distribution here to compare together with the now in Mekong River endemic species you can share here. But we are worried about the overlapping here, just only very few. Now we have nearly a problem, not yet problem, because the Thai government, they want to make a tunnel from the Salween River Basin to refill the water in Mapping River Basin. That means you see here the Chapaya River Basin and Salween River Basin. You can, a number of species, endemic species 156, and endemic here is 71, but just only 7 species are shared together from Salween and Mapping River. That means if they make a tunnel in the future, that means make a lot of problem nearby future. The genetic is changed, the contamination of the fish there. They said it's right. They have a protection of the some gate or some wall to protect the fish to come through to Mapping River, but exactly the egg is smaller than that. The egg of it can be into the Mapping River. We can got the problem in the future, nearby future. Some endemic species are shown here, like a loach. This is described by Guy here, Dr. Chavalit here, the PDI, and also some of Simon. This is the original of fish in 1933 by H.M. Smith. It's a long time. He's the first guy who was general director of Fishery Department of Thailand at this time. He's the American. He's from America. And also some of the endemic species. And now we have another, every creek, every river reach, the upper of mountainous. We got this group in Thai. I think it's around maybe more than 10 species of Oreo granite in. Now I describe this one for the new one. Maybe the name, use the name of the Omgoi Ensit nearby. But I have not time to correct this one. And also many of new species, we have more and more and more. Maybe this one is a new genus also, because it's different, exactly different. Now many work for us to talking about the taxonomy of fish in the northern part of Thailand, not in Southeast Asia, only in the northern part, a lot of work to do. And also we try to do the eDNA, because we have no time to go into the field trip, because in the field trip take lots of time, and also take lots of people to be there, if we understand for the eDNA, but we can't do that. We did already, but we never succeed. You know why? Because we have nothing in the database. We have nothing in the database, then we start again. The big project, more big project for the Thai fish in the future to set up like a DNA sequencing first step. But now we start. Not yet, but now we have project we try to do already for the eDNA. And also the biology, we did a lot also for the biology, for the Cryptotora, this one Cryptotora in the Thamicola. This one, the publication, long times, maybe 2-3 years, to talking about the bone of fish. They are walking, exactly climbing on the wall in very darkness area. And also we are compared together, they are exactly completely different for the biology. Now there are new under the manuscript, I did it on this. It's a very nice one, and many things is different. And also this one, like a bone, I show you, the bone to hanging for the pelvis bone. to hanging it, and also this one is work. After that, we are checking more. A new publication also will be coming this year, maybe next 2 months something. It's about this group is very, very, very success. How to adapt for the running water, very fast running water. And also some species who are living in the mountainous area, they have very, very different of the structure, the adhesive apparatus, different on the shape, different on the tip. You see here, it look like some of them they're like a very point one, and some of them also like a hook. So many after we are talking about the biology and talking about fat. Also feeding habit, we are talking about it, what they are eat, what they are grow, because some seasonal we can check for some seasonal, and many species of fish we did it. And also the feeding, just public last year, they're talking about the feeding of fish in the cave, and how they feed, how they eat, how they grow. Now we check used by the carbon 13 to check back the fish who are living there. And we got another thing, because in the cave they can produce some glucose by themselves. Here you can see the dark one and the open one. The dark one, that means they produce the food from the food chain in the cave by themselves. We use a very tiny one of fish and to do that. In the future, we have to understand more about how they feed in the cave. And also another thing about the maturation, it's about the growth. We are also studies about it in Thailand. The gonad development to checking it. Many after we this one, we are so supply. This one is from the Oreo granite sciences in International. When you are going there, you can see the original, the type locality of this species. Why? Because this species normally in Thailand, the spawning ground, it should be in the rainy season, but this one not in the rainy season. They move to this month from December to around February. Because the clear water, they need the clear water in the mountainous area. Also mature, the blue mature, they have 2 times for spawning. First time in the rainy water, and also the second time here around this season. And also for ecology, we did also, because we have data from taxonomy study, and we collect all the environmental and several things, and then we make a very simple model for the ecology to talking about the ecology, and also now the distribution of that, because we have a lot of data about the fish taxonomy, and we have a data of the ecology. Then we are mixed together. Now we know where are they. Now we make a position of them in somewhere like this in the mountainous area here. This species, this group in the mountainous area. Here, this group in the mountainous area only. This one is a foothill area. This one is lowland. Now we have a data of ecology of fish in Thailand. This is my publication. And also now we know sharing easily is about the ecology. It's about this one, the Lotic Atlantic. Now we know from this area. It's about what is the environmental parameters are control the fish species. Also, they are related together. And also how they adapt. For example, this species, this is a riverine species. It's a very riverine species. But after we are empowerment, many dam, many reservoir, they can be adapted very well. And they grow very well for the first session. Because, do you know why? Because these fish, they are feed on the plankton, the diatom. And when the empowerment of the dam, the starting so many minerals there, and then they grow very well the plankton. And after that, what happened after that? After 20 years, no more. It's very surprised. I got this information from the dam here nearby Chiang Mai, the Mengat Dam. We have a data. Formerly, we have a lot of this one, but now, no. The ecological has changed and completely changed. Also, we did global warming. It's published long time also. The impact, we compare together and we have friends who are working together in Southeast Asia. And then we make a model to predict what's happened after that if we have a dam. Also, if we remove the dam for free running river and also what happened here. And now we can predict what's happened in our area. And also, fish IBI. Now we are starting to make fish IBI by fish in Thailand also, but it's still hard. But we adapt from our ecological study, ecological model. And then to make a fish IBI, to make like fish, we have a 4 or 5 steps of a fish IBI. My student, my PhD student, she did this one. Also, riverine microplastic now, we do it, we do, not we did, we not yet to finish. It's about the microplastic. I show you that this one, because I want to save the plastic bottle. Do you know, a year, you spend a lot of plastic bottle for every day. If you refill in your bottle and you carry on, at least you save 1 bottle a day. If thousands of you, if millions of you, then if you don't bring this one, it's not to support me because the price is reasonable for you. And also, I have a special thing for you. If you're looking on your bottle there, that means you have your names there. It's very specific, very special for you. That's only for your register, that's all. Yes. Okay, and for the conservation. For the conservation way, we have many things to do also for the local people and cooperation together with the Fishery Department of Thailand. We are closely working with the Fishery Department of Thailand. Also, here, I call the 5R together. Firstly, we are talking about the recooperation, but the new thinking, new creation, something like that. Now, the new coming project of us, the Protect Mature, Protect Metang. We are going to Metang next 15, right? On 15. Okay, you can see the farmer there. We are starting for save Metang by Mature. And also, we invite so many of them to share together because the mountainous area is the most important area for us to protect. In Thailand, we have problems about the mountainous area just now because they cut off a lot of trees to plant a mass for the animal pellet. When you eat the chicken, when you eat the fish, when you eat the pig, the pork, that you cut the tree. Because the pellet from the maize, the corn. If you stop to eat chicken, okay, you can save the earth, save the tree also. And also, we're starting from very young to teach them how to know your resources. Not only aquatic resources, many things that we teach them by our knowledge. And also, next we can talking about the recreation. We have problems about the protein consumption in the mountainous area. It's not enough for the people who are living in the mountainous area, very remote area. Then we teach them how to produce a fish by nothing. Now, we got it very successfully in the mountainous area. And also, reservation. Many places now belong to the river, belong to the stream in the mountainous area. Every village now, they have a protected area by themselves. Because at least for 1 or 2 kilometers from the village to take care of it, because the stock of the parent for the fish there. And also rehabilitation. The most important, rehabilitation, do nothing. You do nothing, just you plant. You put the plant into the earth, and it can grow. It's easy way how to protect the river, how to protect the fish, how to protect everything. Now, we did a lot in several places. And also restocking is a stupid thing. Why? Because if you restocking by nothing, if you don't know the species composition, if you don't know about the lifespan of them, what they eat, what they grow, what they're surviving, you are nothing. You release some fish, from aquaculture is nothing. If you put some fish from the nature, from that river, and you produce, you just protect the place area, the place that means the spawning ground. You can protect the feeding area. That's all, no problem. Also, you can plant the tree. Now we try to do many species also. The mature, also the endemic species, one of endemic species, Daniel, Devario Metang is just only in Metang. Maybe I will show you in Metang when we are going to the Metang. That's the endemic, just only that's a river. Very small one. And also the Gara. Gara is one of the commercial species, short one, but fully of eggs. The local people, they love to eat the eggs of the Gara. Now we grow them in some place in the northern part of Thailand, in my area. And also, this I want to promote this one. In time, we release a lot of fish into the river for birthday party, for so many things about their belief, something like that. But for myself, it's not. It's a wrong way how to release the fish. We did a lot of, when we are releasing the turtle into the river, how the turtle swimming. It's so heavy. Immediately they're sinking down, something like that. You're releasing the eel, the swamp eel into the river. What's happened after that? Yes, it's a stupid idea, but we try to change this idea for several things. And also, when you release the overpopulation of this species, what's happened after that? Another species appear. That's all. And also, in the northern part mainly, we work a lot in several places, and we need in the future to cooperation together, not only from agricultural and cooperation minister. We need also the natural resources and environmental, and also the culture, and also the public health, also the education. We need more cooperation. We want to working as a whole basin model. Now we try to do, and we need more cooperation from several places to be well-being of the people. Now, the first stage of us, we do like this, but the next stage. And finally, because we have a limited of times, we can talk more. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Apinan Swanarak, the conference director, for your beautiful and wonderful and the best speech ever.
The question maybe we can talk together tonight to action tonight in the porter session. We have a lot of time for our talking. Okay, please.
Dinner?
Yes.
You mean for
we
dinner?
have
You mean the wine and cheese
cheese dinner.
Oh,
yeah,
my
to be
goodness.
hungover again.
And I miss it.
Okay.
So bad. Okay. Next, we have another keynote speaker who will deliver his speech about current research on Thailand Mahseer. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have Dr. Aaron Cunning. He got PhD in zoology from University of Wisconsin, USA, and now he is Cornell Atkinson postdoctoral fellow. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? All right. Thank you, Ajahn Apinan, for having me and for all of you for coming. I'm going to be presenting work that I've been doing in Thailand. This is by no means the only work that's been done on Mahseer over the last decades, but this is some of the current activities that have been going on. So apparently my slides are advancing without me. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about, we're all here for a variety of reasons. Mahseer bring us to this place. Some of us are recreational anglers, some of us are working on sustainable food systems, others of us are interested in the conservation of biodiversity. But the Mahseer sort of bring these things all together. From my perspective, what interested me in these systems is the nutrition, the subsistence role that these ecosystems have in this region. And these are places where Mahseer are critically important for cultural reasons, but also for daily nutrition. So that's where we're going to start. And this, first I should say that one of the ways that Thailand and other places in South Asia have created a way of conserving their own resources is to create small reserves of places. So this is the Mengao River. This is a small reserve out in that area. It's an area that, as Apinan was saying, a community has designated for themselves. And this isn't something that's done with interaction from the government, but it's something that communities generate in their own decision-making frameworks, and from the realization that they're harvesting a resource that is limited, and there needs to be something done about it. So with the thanks of all these people and many, many more, this is sort of the story of their conservation success, and I think it can be a model that we might be able to apply in other regions throughout the Himalayan region in order to conserve species, especially mahseer. We know that global stocks of fish are decreasing, and a lot of the research and the attention, especially even amongst our own fisheries departments, have been on marine resources. Inland fisheries don't get a lot of attention, and they're data poor in most places that we work. And there's been this long sort of work on improving our understanding of how we can manage fisheries, moving from single stock assessment where we're just managing, a single species, a yellowfin tuna or a brook trout or whatever it is for the benefits, but an increasing recognition that those fish exist in ecosystems and that our approach needs to therefore be a bit broader. So as we've moved through time, this sort of paradigm of moving towards ecosystem-based management has really taken hold within the marine realm, but in the freshwater realm, unfortunately, we're still lacking in this. One of the things that has really driven this sort of broadening of ecosystem-based protection is, rather than dealing with stock limits and regulations, there's this idea of creating spatial protection along the marine ecosystems, where we set aside a marine reserve, we let stocks regenerate naturally, and those stocks then become sort of a backbone of these new ecosystem-based conservation efforts. And there's good reason why these have been so popular and governments have adopted this plan so readily. It's because these are highly successful. So if you look at the increase in richness, this is from a big meta-analysis that was written now 10 years ago, but it's still the most relevant one. Average species richness for a marine reserve goes up by 20%. The density of fish goes up by 160% relative to outside of it. And the biomass of fish goes up by 450% on average. In some places, that number getting as high as 3,000% or 30 times the biomass in a reserve than outside. Unfortunately, this idea hasn't gotten a lot of traction in the freshwater realm yet among the scientific community, although that's changing in the last few years. Because this has been going on for so long in marine systems, there's been a whole body of science that's been developed around this idea, so that we know now what predicts the success of any individual reserve. That being that there's strong enforcement of no-take policies, that there's no harvest allowed inside a reserve. That enforcement is well done. The age of the reserve, the older a reserve gets, the more benefit there is from that reserve. And then the size of the reserve is important. The larger the reserve, the stronger the effect that you have on fish there. And then also the isolation, the degree to which that reserve is far removed from either fishing pressure or from nearby ports, that sort of thing. So again, this work has been going on in the marine system, but not so often applied in the freshwater realm. And finally, one of the key reasons that a lot of people get excited about marine reserves is that, especially in small fishing communities, you can have benefits that extend beyond these reserves, right? So we create a spatial designation, we allow fish stocks inside that spatial area to recover, and eventually those fish stocks get so high that they start having density-dependent spillover. They run out of food, they run out of habitat, and they need to go somewhere. So they move outside of these reserves, making them available for harvesters in those areas. And especially at small artisanal scales, these have been shown to be really important for sustaining stocks and actually recovering some stocks around the world. Again, this is one of the first papers that you see really calling for this ecosystem approach to inland fisheries. And that's Steve Cook is on this, who's been there, my advisor at Cornell, Pete McIntyre, Doug Beard, Robert Outhouse, sort of these leading lights of freshwater conservation. But we're talking 2011, one of the first calls for taking on this ecosystem-based approach. There's been work by Robin Abel, another one of my co-advisors, for my current postdoc, at looking, well, we have all these national parks on the landscape. They must be providing some benefit to fisheries. But what they found is that most often those reserves are set up for mammals and for birds, and that biodiversity, while it does overlap with freshwater biodiversity, the alignment isn't perfect. And often there are areas that have high endemicity of fish that aren't covered by terrestrial designated areas. And finally, there's starting to just be some, in the last couple of years, been some discussion of applying marine principles that have been developed for so long into freshwater areas, especially in Southeast Asia. In part because in Southeast Asia, these reserves exist as a product of the communities themselves, not because of government or conservation organizations necessarily spurring them on. So riverine reserves, there's plenty of people who will hear about reserves in India, will hear about reserves in other places. This is a cultural phenomenon that's not unique here, but there are aspects of it that are unique. There's a reason I call them riverine reserves. If you're familiar with the marine protected area literature, marine protected area is a spatial designation where there's regulation. A marine reserve is one in which there's no harvest allowed at all. So these are reserves in the sense that communities don't allow anyone to harvest in a spatial area. And the riverine has its own importance in that these are flowing systems that have dendritic networks that differ substantially from coastal or marine ecosystems. And we need to think about those aspects of rivers independent of the way that they've been thought about in marine systems. So this is an example. This is not too far from Mengao where we'll be going. This community has set aside about 500 meters of a river, and the results of that effort are a close habitation with a very large shoal of mahseer, and that happens throughout the year. This is not unique. This is not a unique picture. There's Tora and Neolisochyla species in this pool, but they respond strongly to this. And if you ask a Thai person, where do you find these fish, they'll say, oh, we see them in caves or we see them in temples, because these are fish that are associated with holy places in a lot of cases. However, they exist through rivers throughout the region, and they're really important for some communities. So I'm going to be talking about the Mengao River, which if you're going on the field trip, we'll all be visiting. And this is sort of an intro to the area. So the Mengao drains from western Thailand into the Salween River, which starts next to the Mekong and the Himalaya and flows down south, ending in the Indian Ocean. And the Mengao community, it's a watershed that's about 1,000 square kilometers. In this watershed, there are about 75 communities. 52 of them have created reserves on their own accord. So we're talking almost all of them have. They vary in size from 2 kilometers of river length down to, there's one reserve that's not much bigger than my outstretched arms, although it too contains mahseer. And you can see them in this map ranging from the mouth of the river, which is up here, and going up into secondary and tertiary tributaries of this whole system. 7 years ago when I started working here, I asked a community here where I knew there was a reserve, how many reserves are in this river valley? And they told me there are 4. So I went to the last reserve that they knew of, and I asked them, is there any more reserves? And over the course of a month and a half, I traveled every road I could get my truck down and found a total of 53 of these. And each one of them was at least Neolisochyla, especially in the high water, high elevation areas. But in the main stem, you've got at least 1 or 2 species of tor in all of them as well. So these are communities that are fishing intensively, but at the same time are maintaining conservation of these fish stocks. This is what the area looks like. So if you don't get to go on the field trip, this is an upland agricultural area. It's got a population within this 1,000 square kilometers of probably 8,000 to 10,000 people. It's not a huge river, especially in dry season, although it is home to about 60 species of fish, so great high diversity. And with a simple spatial designation, you get large schools of fish that are visible from the bank. Right? This is an area that was created probably 10 years ago and hasn't been harvested since then. These fish, as I said, are really important for local communities. They fish nearly every day. Part of the work that's ongoing now is to figure out how much fish communities are actually harvesting, what proportion of that catch is composed of mahseer species. But everything from, as you see in the next slide, everything from the local freshwater shrimp to small parambasses to mass assembled eels are eaten. Of course, there's local preference for larger bodied fish like the hampal. There's communities have banded together to create reserves, often just putting up signs next to the river saying there's no fishing in this area. Often they'll put a saffron robe around a tree designating that area as a sacred ground. In a couple of communities, you have their ethnic Karen groups, and about half of the Karen are Christian and half of them are Buddhist in this area. And so you have here a working together of the Buddhists symbolized by the saffron robe and a Christian cross, designating that among each of their communities that that's a protected area. You have monks who set aside forest groves next to the temples, and you have also animist communities that have their own ceremonies in which to designate these areas as protected. In every case, these areas are massively successful and completely unsupported by anyone outside the community. And the results do speak for themselves. You know, this is a common, I spend a lot of time snorkeling. The results that I'll be giving you today are predominantly from snorkeling, but you could go to any one of these reserves on the main stem and come across just shoals and shoals of fish. These areas are not only important for the mahseer, of course, they're important habitat, and like Ajahn Apinun said, these are, by designating a spatial area, you also are preserving other species that are relying on this. This is a Hypsibarbus species, one of the other most numerous species in the area. These are spawning grounds inside of the reserves. And so there's these knock-on benefits. Even though they may be designated for mahseer, there are other species that have spawning activities that go on during this time that are conserved because of that action. I asked the local communities what would happen if these fish decided to spawn on the next riffle up, and they said that they would eat well for the next week. So that they work, but they are spatial in nature. So I'm going to quickly go through. In the Western literature, we don't think that these reserves should work. They're too small. Everyone that I talk to, I have to defend strongly that these things might actually be an effective conservation strategy. So I came out and I wanted to show that these things work because you could see from the bank. But to what extent do they work? How can we predict if these reserves are going to be successful, and therefore how can we augment the capacity for these reserves to maintain populations? And then finally, how do mahseer specifically use these reserves? And so that's some ongoing work that I'm doing with the Fisheries Conservation Foundation, with National Geographic, with Zeb, with the Douglases at University of Arkansas, and I'll be talking about it at the end. So do small reserves benefit fish? Well, I've shown you some video that suggests strongly that they do. So we went out and sampled, but that wasn't good enough for my dissertation committee. So I went out and sampled 23 sites. These are the purple sites. With a colleague, we snorkel surveyed in all of them, inside reserves and outside the reserves, so that we could do a paired comparison at each location. And what did we find? Well, we looked at richness, we looked at density, and we looked at biomass. So from a conservation perspective, how many species are these reserves actually conserving? Do they maintain species that aren't found elsewhere? Are those numbers increasing? And then are the size of individuals increasing substantially, that might actually have a fisheries effect? So here again, just briefly, this is a non-reserve. This is a site located on a primary tributary, quite small. It's probably about 1.5 meters across. It's probably 200 meters above the main stem. And here you have a few juvenile Neolisicylus. If you go 50 meters upstream, across an invisible boundary to the fish that's designated only by a Thai flag dangling, and you go to the next pool, you have this sort of stark contrast in diversity of fish, but also the size. And again, this is just community boundaries. They just set where they are. This isn't cherry-picked footage. I could show you hours and hours of it. But the differences are staggering. On average, what we found across all fish species is that an increase in about 27% of fish species, or reserves had 2 more species, but up to 7 more species than non-reserve areas. And these are separated, again, only by a few hundred yards. Okay, so these are instantaneous impacts. If we look at the density of fish, which is this log ratio, but it's just, if it's above this line, it means that the reserve has more fish in it than outside the reserve. You see this gray box. On average, we have 124% more fish per unit area outside. For mahseer, that's actually 10 times higher. It's 1,000%, not 124% for the 2 species. And then for biomass of fish, we see 23 times higher biomass in reserves than outside of it. And for mahseer, that number is actually 33% on average. 33 times higher biomass in the reserve than outside of it. So that tells you 2 things. One, these reserves are maintaining biomass, and also that communities are highly successful at removing it outside of these reserves. But if we compare that to what's been found in the marine literature, which I showed you earlier, these results are on par, 21%, 27%, with what we see in the marine realm. And so there's real justification for thinking that these things might work in the freshwater system. So do they benefit? Do small reserves benefit fish? I think the answer is overwhelmingly yes, in the context that we see here. And then what predicts reserve benefits? Well, from the marine realm, we know that size does. The connectivity of a reserve is important, the enforcement of a reserve, and the isolation, and also the age. So what we did was look at each of these outcomes, the richness response, the density, and the biomass responses, to see if any of these predictors would suggest that these are the most important for the reserves. So we did that by looking at a few different proxies, and I'll explain these as we go through them. So I'm going to show you a series of graphs, which are the results of a model model outcomes, and you can ask me about the details of all of that, but these are sort of model averaging outcomes. So what we're going to be looking at is these proxies for size, for connectivity, enforcement, isolation, and age. And then we're going to look at all fish, large fish, those being larger than a maximum size of 20 centimeters, small fish smaller than 20 centimeters, and then by trophic yield as well, predators, omnivores, herbivores. So if we're looking for Mahseer in this system, those are going to be large fish, and they're also going to be within this omnivore section. The tor and the Neolisticus in the species in this stream, if you look at their stable isotopes, they all come out at roughly a trophic position of 3, but they're integrating across piscivory and frugivory, so averaging out to what would be sort of an omnivorous or a highly variable diet. If we see a strong blue coloration, that means there's a strong positive correlation between that variable and that group of fish, and a bright red would be a strongly negative correlation. So here's the first one, and I'll help us focus in on where we might see certain changes. So here's the overall results for all of those things. If we sort of squint and pick out the darkest blues and darkest reds, we see that reserve area discharged between a centrality, which is a network of how centrally located within the entire river basin are you, are all positively correlated with increased richness in a reserve. Interestingly, we see that years protected or age of the reserve, the older a reserve is, the actual has a decreasing trend, and I'll talk about why that might be in a little bit. But we can see that there are strong gains for all fish, for large fish and omnivores with area, and again, we're only talking about 2.5 hectares of river being protected, ranging from about 0.3 hectares to 2.5 hectares. So not large areas, but incredible gains with small increases in size. And for some species like the predators and some herbivores, actually being in the larger area of the river, the higher discharge areas becomes really important, which we would expect for large-bodied fish who might be using these rivers and connecting to outside larger stream networks. And this betweenness centrality is that metric of how centrally located within a network are you. So not being too far up the tributaries or not being too far down to allow for genetic change amongst these reserve populations. And again, decreases with age. So I'll talk about it again at the end, but we see this for all fish, for predators and omnivores, that as the duration of protection goes by, up to 25 years being the oldest reserve in this system, you're actually seeing decreased richness through time. And there's a few reasons why we might be seeing that. So density, we see less strong effects, but we see that discharge is important. But really, the strongest effect for all fish and large fish, those being the Mahseer, is how close a reserve was to a village. So this sort of as a proxy for enforcement. The further away a reserve was from a village, the less the reserve effect. So suggesting that without a community nearby on the bank to oversee what's happening in that area, the results of that protection are diminished. So some communities have reserves that are over a kilometer away from where they live. Those areas typically responded poorly in terms of total success than those reserves in which were designated nearby. Regardless of what the penalty was, just having an explicit statement of a penalty, whether it was monetary, whether it was pouring out libations for the spirits, these are all things, just having an explicit penalty improved outcomes for some taxa, for small fish. And finally, biomass. From a fishery standpoint, this is what really matters, the meat on the plate. And we see really strong relationships between the size of the reserve across all of these groups, all large, small predators, omnivores, and also that enforcement that's provided by being close to a reserve. So again, this really strong increase in biomass through time, moving not very much size, suggesting that if we made these reserves a little bit larger, these gains could increase and the benefit could be all the greater. And again, the closer that reserve is to your village, the more protection it's provided. So what if we were going to design a riverine network, instead of this ad hoc approach that the communities themselves have applied, we would probably suggest that you create a large reserve, that you create a reserve that's well connected to other reserves in the network. That meaning there's not a whole lot of distance between the central reserve and the next reserve. That they're well enforced, whether in this context that means being close to a village so that there's group enforcement amongst the community. In other contexts, that might mean paying a warden to go to a remote location and actually guard a location. So these are things that need to be culturally considered, but that enforcement's important, unsurprisingly. And again, this question of young, why should they be young? Well, if you look across these model results, age always comes out as a negative predictor, suggesting the longer your reserve is there, the less biomass you're generating, the less density of fish you're generating, and the fewer species you have in the reserve. Well, actually, what we think is happening is that this is a model. All of these variables are included in the model, so age is just one of many, and this is the outcome that we see when you consider reserves that already have a large size or are already well enforced. What we think is happening is that this is evidence of spillover actually occurring. So again, in marine systems for these coastal communities, if they set aside an area, they can start generating income and revenue from the fishery along the borders of these areas. And so through time, what we think is happening here, that those reserve populations get so large that fish start running out of resources, they get cramped for space, and they start going out into the broader ecosystem. And those are areas where the communities themselves are fishing. And again, they know this. They're setting up net after net after net right at the boundary of these reserves and making their living on fish at the boundaries. And it's also not that biomass is actually decreasing. It's just that the ratio between the reserve biomass and outside of the reserve biomass is decreasing. So these purple dots here are the biomass of fish across all 23 sites going through time. So we see an increase above zero of biomass going all the way up to 25 years. So biomass itself is actually increasing and starting to plateau along that timeline. But we also see biomass outside of reserves in these blue lines increasing initially and then plateauing following that same trajectory, suggesting that these fish really are moving from inside the reserves to outside the reserves. And again, the communities know this is happening because this is where they're catching their fish. All right, what predicts reserve benefits? Large size, well-connected, well-enforced, and old. In fact, in enough time, in that timeline, if we look back, it's in 7 or 8 years you start generating fish that are spilling out of these areas, and they become net sources of fish rather than contracting and isolating that biomass. And finally, how do Mahseer use reserves? So this is ongoing work. We've just started it, and I'll finish with this. But a group of us, Ajahn Apinan, Dave, Julie, Zeb, a group from Bhutan, Ajahn Kun Tatrawi as well, and a group of fly fishermen from Bangkok came up for a few weeks last February. And we tried to initiate a telemetry study on these Mahseer to see what the movement, the importance of movement among these reserves is, and also just answer some basic questions about the life history that we don't know. So we installed an array of five fixed radio receivers along this river, using solar when necessary and plugging in when we could. And we targeted Neolisochyla strachei, which in these rivers grow up to about 60 centimeters. And are loads of fun to catch. And for those, we were talking about this yesterday, so I put this in here. Neolisochylis is with the smooth lower lip, so I'll show you that. We also tried to target tor, but they were a lot harder to come by. Thankfully, Tatrari was there and was able to hook a couple for us. But this is probably tor sinensis, but I'll let the taxonomist in the room really figure that out. Rajiv's going to give us that answer later. And again, we see this strong fleshy lobe on the lower lip, differentiating these in this system. There are also some very large Mahseer, so we caught not large Mahseer, as you can see from the photos. These are about 1 meter in size, and there's a group of 15 or 20 of them that often congregate in each of these pools. So far, we haven't been able to hook into one, but they do exist, and whether they're sinensis or not, I'm not sure, but I figured I'd put it up there for somebody to figure out. So here are, we caught fish in these reserves with the red dots. They're spread across 8 different areas. We've got 4 strachei. In total, we have 35 strachei and only 2 tor that we've been able to tag, but we still have a few tags, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to augment these numbers. And so you can see that they're spread throughout the basin. So every time we caught a fish, we also took a fin clip so that we can look at the population genetics that are spread throughout each of these reserves. Are these actually small populations that aren't mixing at all, or do we see mixing across each of these locations? And then we have 5 stations, as I mentioned, going from the mouth of the river to see if these are moving out of the system and into the broader Salween River Basin, and then how far they're moving up into these headwater streams. Unfortunately, 2 of these stations went down at various points due to ants and or flooding, so they've been back online, and I haven't been able to collect the data yet, so I'll just show you some preliminary findings. And they do a variety of things. There seems to be no consistent storyline. We were thinking that we would see them tick across these reserves all the way up, sort of similar to the work that's been done in Bhutan. They're all moving from low water up into the tributaries sort of coordinated an effort, but that doesn't seem to be the case going on. This fish was tagged on the 26th of February. It hung out at Station 4, which is right down here, for quite a long time, being read every day along the way. Until the June 11th. On the 12th, it moved to the top of the reserve and sat there for a day, and then 2 weeks later showed up at this site up here. After that, there's no more, to date, there's no more pings of this individual. So we're not sure if he's come down yet. I haven't collected data since October. So it may have been up there until October, but we'll see. It may have been caught as well. 4 of the fish that we've tagged that I know have been caught, and I've been able to recover the tags from all 4 of them by working with the communities. A little bit of the natural history. So we have a river, we have a water gauge on this, and we see that the fish was tagged as the descending arm of this hydrograph, and really starts its upward movement after the first large rain event. You can see just starting to pick up here in June, and that the second large movement, it arrived in Station 1 at that second peak in the hydrograph. So suggesting that these fish are moving with that water increase. Another fish didn't move at all. It actually just stayed in one reserve, and it's been in that same reserve the entire time. Hasn't moved. And whether that's because it's small and not spawning, or whether it's spawning not every year, we're not sure, but we'll try to figure that out. It did move highly within one reserve while there was road construction going on, and they pushed a lot of dirt into this pool. But other than that, it hasn't moved very far. And finally, the Tor individual that, or one of the 2 that we've been able to tag, did move from this lower, was caught here in this reserve, and moved about 3 kilometers upstream. But again, after July 1st, it hasn't read back into the system. A lot of movement across the area during that rising hydrograph. So what are the sort of preliminary findings from this tagging study? Well, first, that both Strachey and Sinensis seem to be highly common to these reserves. They appear to move upstream first with large rain events, and downstream, we still don't know what they're doing, but hopefully by reading out data from these loggers, we'll be able to figure that out. Most of these fish seem to be remaining near a single reserve for the duration of the dry season, which is where we have most of our data, and then movement coming at the onset of rainy season. And they seem to be potentially using a lot of secondary tributaries rather than moving long distances upstream before finding smaller water. And we know that because 3 of the fish that were caught by local fishermen were caught in small tributaries that were quite near adjacent the reserves that they came from. So I think in conclusion, these reserves offer a potential model that could be used for conservation, especially among communities that are highly dependent on these resources. That doesn't take long for these communities to reap the benefits of the action that they're taking themselves. And that there is still quite a bit that we need to learn about the Mahseer, the movement of these fish in these systems. So thanks. With that, I'd like to thank a bunch of sponsors, funding agencies, and we can talk at the poster session.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aaron Koenig. Last but not least, we still have one representation. Please welcome Professor Dr. Seth Hogan, the editor of National Geographic, Research Assistant Professor, Department of Biology. He graduated PhD from University of California, Davis, and BS University of Arizona. Okay. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Seth Hogan. Today, he will give a speech of migratory fishes.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Zeb Hogan. I'm a research biologist at the University of Nevada in Reno. And I also host a National Geographic television show called Monster Fish. And this morning, I'd like to talk about conservation and management of migratory megafish, or migratory large-bodied freshwater fish, in an era where we're losing a lot of connectedness and health of a lot of our rivers around the world. My area of focus is fish migration, migratory fish, and also large-bodied fish. And I've been working with National Geographic and the University of Nevada, Reno for the last 15 years or so on a project to find, study, and protect the world's largest freshwater fish. all over the world. And so I've spent the last 15 years or so traveling from Asia, Australia, Africa, South America, and North America, trying to gather information about the world's largest fish. These are freshwater fish that grow over 2 meters in length or weigh more than 100 kilograms. So these are the largest freshwater fish out there. And what we find is that, or what I found working with many of the people in this room, hundreds of scientists and fishermen all over the world, is that there are about 30 to 35 species of freshwater fish that can grow over 2 meters long or weigh more than 100 kilograms. And it's a diverse assemblage of fish, giant catfish, carp, sturgeon, all different kinds of fish all over the world, stingray, arapaima. Another conclusion or result that came out of this work, and maybe it's obvious to most of you, but a lot of these fish occur in large rivers, the largest rivers and lakes all over the world. And a lot of them are migratory, and they need large habitats in order to thrive. So this is a map that was put together by the World Fish Migration Foundation of the swimways of the world. And what you see is that with a lot of these big fish, Goliath catfish in South America, Mekong giant catfish in the Mekong, giant trout in Mongolia, and sturgeon in the United States, is that these fish are making long-distance migrations in a lot of the world's big rivers. And to a certain extent, as we'll learn, I think, later in this conference, that's also the case for some species of Mahseer. Now, why is that an issue? Well, one of the reasons that that's an issue, there is a paper out last year showing that only 37% of the world's large rivers are still free-flowing. And so what we see is we're losing a lot of our large free-flowing rivers. They're being dammed, fragmented. And the result of that has been that there's been a global decline in freshwater megafauna, and especially freshwater fish. Another study out late last year showed up to a 99% decline of some species of freshwater fish, especially in Asia. So why am I interested in large migratory fish? I started out actually, I did my PhD on migratory catfish in the Mekong River in Southeast Asia. Started out studying the migrations of smaller species of pangasic catfish. But I realized fairly quickly that it very often is the biggest fish that face the biggest threats. And that's certainly the case in the Mekong, where you have Mekong giant catfish, giant carp, seven-striped barb, all of these large-bodied fish that are critically endangered, right at the brink of extinction. And in many cases, these large migratory fish act as umbrella species. And if we can protect the habitat and the life history of these large migratory fish, we can also protect a lot of other species in the meantime. These species are also charismatic. They, like golden mahseer, they attract people's attention. Because they're vulnerable, it's possible to tell stories about them and tell people about them to highlight the threats that these fish and their habitats face. They're indicators, they can be indicators or warnings of fishery collapse. In ecosystems, for example, the Amazon, which is still relatively healthy, you still see a relatively large number of these megafish, freshwater megafish. In a system like the Mekong, which is more heavily fished, a lot of these big fish populations have really declined significantly. So they can be a warning or an indication of impending fishery collapse. They're also kind of a good reminder of shifting baselines. I'm sure we've seen this with Mahseer in a lot of places. We see this with Mekong giant catfish, where people's perception of the abundance of these fish changes over time. So in the 1800s, there were thousands of Mekong giant catfish being caught all over the Mekong River basin. By the mid-1900s, 1940s, 1950s, the number had dropped to hundreds annually. In the 1990s, there were dozens. And now recently, that number has basically dropped to zero. And so people think that the abundance that we see now is normal, whereas actually with a lot of these fish, lake sturgeon is another example in North America, 99%, 95 to 99% decline of these populations, but people assume that what we see now is the way things have always been, which a lot of times isn't the case. And these are also great flagship species. I heard earlier this morning the Mahseer, golden Mahseer, referred to the tiger as the tiger of the river. A lot of these big fish, they're iconic animals in the same way that tigers, whales, and panda bears are in the marine realm and in terrestrial landscapes. So now I'd just like to give you a few examples of some of these big migratory fish, examples from Asia. Where we are right now is probably within 1,000 kilometers of here. This is probably the highest concentration of freshwater megafish anywhere in the world. So if you go to the Salween, there are 4 or 5 species of these big fish. The Mekong has 7 or 8 species. And there are actually some fishing ponds in southern Thailand, probably throughout Thailand, but the one I've been to is in southern Thailand, that have over a dozen species of big fish, these big fish from all over the world, including probably some world record holders. Some of the largest of these big fish anywhere in the world are probably in fishing ponds in southern Thailand. So we're really in an epicenter of freshwater megafish here in Chiang Mai. So if you go, the first fish I'd like to talk about is the Mekong giant catfish. It can get up to 10 feet long, 300 centimeters, 300 kilograms. The world's largest, it's the record holder for world's largest freshwater fish. And that world record fish was caught in Chiang Khong, Thailand, about 5 hours drive north of here, in May of 2005. By a group of students, or at least the main fisherman who caught that fish was a student on summer break. I think he borrowed his uncle's boat, and he went out and he caught a 296 kilogram Mekong giant catfish just about 5 hours north of here. This species is critically endangered. Very few of these fish, adult fish, are seen anymore. But as we heard earlier this morning, it is the Thai Department of Fisheries did develop a captive breeding program for this fish. So there are relatively large captive populations. It's not doing well at all in the wild. And I'll get to why that is a little bit later. So this just shows a graph of catch versus effort as the giant catfish fishery really crashed in the last place where it was caught, right at its spawning ground in northern Thailand. You see an increasing fishing effort and a decrease in catch, which is pretty indicative of a collapse. This is another one of these big fish. This is the giant carp or giant barb. It's the largest cyprinid in the world. Thought to have once got up to about 300 kilograms and perhaps 3 meters long. This fish was native to the Mekong River, the Chao Phraya River in central Thailand, and the Mekong River. And this fish also is critically endangered, very rare nowadays. Adults are almost never seen. And probably some of the largest fish of this species, up to about 100 kilos right now, are in these fishing ponds, recreational fishing ponds in southern Thailand. This is one of the world's largest freshwater stingrays. This is also a species that occurs in the Chao Phraya and the Mekong and Meklong. Perhaps even bigger than the Mekong giant catfish, grows up to 500 centimeters long and perhaps 600 kilograms. And we know very, very little about the ecology of this fish. There was a Thai professor at Chulalongkorn University who did some tagging and telemetry of this species in the Mekong River in Thailand and found that the species perhaps was moving between the estuary and freshwater, making medium distance migrations. But we really don't know much about the ecology of a lot of these fish. And some of you will recognize this fish. This is a fish that also occurs in Himalayan rivers. This is a goonch catfish. Most of my experience with the goonch catfish is in the Mekong, but it also is fairly common throughout India. Once grew to 300 kilograms and 300 centimeters. If there are any goonch experts or people knowledgeable about goonch in the room, please, I'd love to talk with you this evening or later on in the meeting. This is a species that once got very large in India, also in the Mekong. We did some tagging in northern Thailand, and this was, of all the fish we tagged, was the most migratory, showed the longest distance movements of any fish that we tagged in northern Thailand. And then moving on to Asia, Russia, Mongolia, China, you have the world's largest trout. This is a trout species that can get up to 2 meters long and 100 kilograms. I've been involved in a conservation and management project in Mongolia since 2005, and I think that this conservation project in Mongolia actually has a lot of similarities to some of the management and conservation projects that we'll hear about the next few days. It's a management program that relied on income of recreational fishers to then fund the management and protection of the stretch of river where this trout occurs in Mongolia. I have a quick video that I think need some help playing, but I'll click on it, but I think if I could have someone help me to play the video just by pressing the play button, please. A video, yes. It's there.
The Egg River. The Egg River on the vast steppe. The Egg River on the vast steppe of northern Mongolia, one of the most remote places on Earth. The Egg River on the vast steppe of northern Mongolia, one of the most remote places on Earth, and a fisherman's paradise. Anglers from around the world pay thousands of dollars to come here to catch the world's largest trout, the Hucho taimen. The Egg River on the vast steppe of northern Mongolia, one of the most remote places on Earth. The Egg River on the vast steppe of northern Mongolia, one of the most remote places on Earth, and a fisherman's paradise. Anglers from around the world pay thousands of dollars to come here to catch the world's largest trout, the Hucho taimen. Carl Evanson is an American fishing guide who has worked in Mongolia for 6 years.
Fishing for a fish that gets up to 5 feet long, that is essentially a trout, is a big draw for a lot of folks, especially some of the big game folks and other folks who just want to see a different part of the world.
The largest taimen ever caught measured 6 feet and weighed 200 pounds. The fish is also a ferocious predator, according to biologist Zeb Hogan, who leads National Geographic's Megafishes project and studies the taimen.
This is a 45-inch fish. You can see the head is just massive, the largest part of the fish's body. And this fish will eat anything it can fit in its mouth.
Hogan and his colleagues once found a 5-foot taimen washed up on the shore with a 3-foot taimen sticking out of its mouth.
We also found a 54-inch taimen that had died and it was sitting on the bottom. And when we did an autopsy on that fish, we found a 4-pound muskrat in its stomach. God, this is a strong fish.
The taimen may be strong, but like most large freshwater fish around the world, it's also in trouble. It has been fished to the brink of extinction in neighboring China and is rapidly being wiped out in Russia, too. In Mongolia, fishing is not part of traditional life, but in recent years, illegal fishing has increased. To stem the trend, conservationists advocate catch-and-release fishing, as opposed to the kind that kills the fish. Westerners are encouraged to come to Mongolia and bring with them much-needed foreign currency to catch the taimen as long as they put it back in the river.
There's a great alternative to harvest fishing, catch-and-release fishing. It's sustainable, it generates money for Mongolia, and it doesn't harm the fish.
Anglers must use single barbless hooks to catch the resilient taimen, which can be caught over and over without getting hurt.
I'm a salmon fisherman, basically, and this is supposed to be the largest of that class of fish in the world. And it's a remote and wonderful idea, and I just thought if I could catch one of those in my lifetime, I'd be happy.
Every taimen that is caught is tagged so that scientists can learn more about its movement and its population size.
0256.
To Hogan, the battle to save the taimen has become personal.
We've been working here for 4 years now, and we see the same big fish in the same pools year after year after year. And some of these big fish, these 5-foot fish, they could be 50 years old, living in one pool for 50 years. And so if those fish are removed, they're gone.
Apologize that wasn't in a larger format, but so you can see I think there are some similarities between giant Eurasian trout and golden mahseer. It's a predatory fish, long-lived. In the case of taimen, it can live up to 60 years. It makes short distance, maybe 30 to 40 to 50 kilometer migrations in the spring and fall. In the spring for spawning, and in the fall probably move to overwintering habitat. And it's a really good candidate for catch and release fishing. Through the team's work, we showed that catch and release fishing is sustainable with about 1 to 2% mortality with single barbless hooks with the fish handled well and released. With harvest mortality, with harvest of the fish populations, and especially the really large fish, the number of really large fish drops off very quickly. Another fish in Asia, mainly found in 300 kilograms. And this is a species I'll talk a little bit about more, but maybe some of you saw the news, was just recently declared officially extinct. So the first one of these big freshwater fish that looks like it probably has gone extinct. As Aaron's research shows, can be very abundant in sites that are protected, but absent from areas that are heavily fished. And so we were able to see large schools of the fish in temple pools, essentially, but not very common in other areas. So now I'd just like to talk about 3 rivers in Asia that are on different conservation and development trajectories. Maybe there are some lessons we can learn from these 3 different rivers. Oh, that video worked. We already saw a lot of nice video from Aaron's presentation. So the first is the Yangtze. The Yangtze River, a large number of endemics, home to the Chinese paddlefish, the Chinese sturgeon, the world's largest freshwater turtle, an endemic species of freshwater dolphin. But it's a river that has been heavily developed, heavily impacted over the last few decades. to the point now where we had some very sad news just recently last month of the probable extinction of the Chinese paddlefish. And so this is, to me, a warning, a wake-up call for all of us who are concerned about the conservation of these freshwater fish. This was happening for a long period of time. I don't think it was a surprise to anyone. The reasons behind the extinction of the fish are not a surprise. Essentially, overfishing, habitat degradation, and the building of the Gazuba and Three Gorges Dam, which blocked the fish's spawning migration. And so there are some lessons that we can learn from this to hopefully avoid species extinction in the future. I have one more video. If it plays, it plays. If it doesn't, I'll just talk about it. But let's see. This video was taken in 2007 on a visit to the Yangtze River looking for the Chinese paddlefish with a Chinese professor who lives in Wuhan named Dr. Wei-Chi Wei. Let's see.
Biologist Zeb Hogan
Can you turn up the
getting
volume a
a
little
close-up
bit?
look at one of the world's largest freshwater fishes, the Chinese sturgeon.
Big fish. It's a strong fish. And it's tail's free, so it can really whip around.
Thank you.
Look at that. Wow.
The sturgeons can grow up to 16 feet or 5 meters long and weigh almost 1,000 pounds. The Chinese sturgeon may be powerful, but this giant species is also in big trouble. Its home, the Yangtze River in China, Asia's longest river, is increasingly threatened by heavy boat traffic and pollution. Hogan is leading the National Geographic Society's Megafishes Project, a 3-year study to document the status of the 20 or so species of giant fish found in rivers and lakes around the world. More than a fifth of the world's known freshwater fish species have become extinct or gravely threatened in recent years. The construction of the Gazuba Dam in the early 1980s blocked the migration route to the spawning grounds of the sturgeon. Today, there may be fewer than 1,000 adult sturgeons left in the Yangtze River. Megafishes are often the first ones to suffer from overfishing or habitat loss. Each year, at least 10 sturgeons are also killed after being hit by boat propellers. The new Three Gorges Dam, the largest hydroelectric dam in the world, will present another threat to these giant fish.
From the perspective of a fish, there's nothing that affects the environment like a dam. The Chinese sturgeon now has no natural spawning ground left in the Yangtze River.
Researchers like Wei-Chi Wei of the Yangtze River Fisheries Institute are locked in a race against time to save the giant fish. Here at a hatchery outside Jingsu, Wei and his colleagues are running a breeding program to enhance the sturgeon stock.
500,000 larvae produces how many fish? How many can survive?
We can survive 80%.
80%.
80%. So we stock
400,000 fingerlings.
Researchers may yet save the Chinese sturgeon, but for an even larger Yangtze giant, the Chinese paddlefish, it may be too late. In late 2002, Dr. Wei and his team attempted to rehabilitate one of the last paddlefishes captured in the wild. It had been injured by a boat and died in captivity less than 30 days after its capture. The paddlefish can reportedly grow up to 23 feet or 7 meters long and weigh more than half a ton. But no paddlefish has been seen since 2003.
No fish, but we use the fish finder. We find could be a Chinese paddlefish. We find some signal.
Some signals.
His 60-foot research vessel is equipped with a tank and a crane, ready to rescue any giant fish that he might find. If the search fails, this may be the closest we'll ever get to see the Chinese paddlefish again.
So unfortunately, that seems to have be the case. So Dr. Wei Chiwei, who was featured in that video, spent the last 10 years conducting surveys for the Chinese paddlefish, and he was unable to find any. And so they just published their results and declared that they thought that the Chinese paddlefish was extinct. So the next river I'd like to talk about is the Mekong. It's in a little bit of a different situation. It seems to be really right at a tipping point right now, and I'd like to talk with others in the audience to get your perspective. But the Mekong, for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's an incredibly productive river. Fish are very important. Over 2 million tons of fish harvested from the Mekong every year. There are 2,000-year-old cave paintings of fish showing how important fish were to people living there 2,000 years ago. Fish are carved in the walls of Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Fish are incredibly important to people's livelihoods and to people's diets. But unfortunately, the Mekong is being very rapidly dammed. There are several dams already built in China. There are more dams being built in the lower Mekong River Basin. I put together this graph. So the white bars are dams either planned or in construction, or I guess the gray bars are in construction, and the black bars are dams that have already been built. And I've superimposed on that the distribution and migratory path of the Mekong giant catfish, which is caught in the rainy season in the Tonle Sap Lake, which is a big floodplain. At the end of the rainy season, moving out of the Tonle Sap in January and February in the middle of Cambodia in Kampong Cham. At the beginning of the rainy season, moving over the mainstream waterfalls on the Mekong called the Cone Falls. And then the only known spawning ground for the Mekong giant catfish is in northern Thailand in the Chiang Khong and Chiang Rai area. And so you can see it potentially is making very long distance migrations, and migrations that are going to be blocked by the dams that are currently under construction. So what we have in the Mekong, what's playing out in the Mekong right now, very likely, is the same thing that happened in the Yangtze. So if these dams are built, we will very likely see the extinction of a lot of these highly migratory, large-bodied fish. There's already one species, it's called Aptocyax, that, to my knowledge, has not been seen in several years. It's a large predatory cyprinid, and it may be the first one of the large-bodied Mekong species to actually go extinct, unfortunately. And in addition to the Mekong giant catfish, there are also other species of large-bodied fish in the Mekong, the seven-striped barb, the endangered river catfish up here is Aptocyax, Sanat Wong-sized catfish. These are all endangered or critically endangered fish in the Mekong River that will potentially be really threatened by this ongoing dam building. And then finally, I'd like to talk about a river that's about a 4-hour drive from here. It's very close to Aaronsfield site, for those of you who are going on the field trip, the Salween. It's Asia's kind of last large undammed river, very high biodiversity. It's a wild river. I was fortunate enough to go to the Salween in 2017 as a result of the river opening up a little bit, the region becoming a little bit more safe. And we filmed a show on the Salween in 2017 on the border of Myanmar and Thailand. And what we found is that there are large numbers of big fish in the Salween, including large goonch catfish and large mahseer. I've been asking people in this room what species of mahseer this is. I haven't been able to get a good answer, but the fishermen there say that there are mahseer, this species of mahseer, that can grow over 100 pounds, so up to about 50 or 60 kilograms. And this is a river that's undammed, it's wild, it's highly productive, and until recently, and even now, very difficult to access. And so all of those factors have meant that the Salween is still home to a lot of these large fish, including this very large species of mahseer. And fortunately, we're seeing some movement towards conservation of this area, local communities speaking out against dam development. And this was a ceremony we took part in of the establishment of a freshwater reserve, similar to what we see in that Aaron just talked about. So you do see some movement toward protection of the salween, which is very promising. And so finally, I'd just like to talk quickly about some solutions. So we've heard a lot about problems, about these large fish that are declining and that are in trouble. What are some solutions? Well, some of the solutions that I think we'll hear about this week, one is science-based management and research, applied research. For example, the telemetry work that's going on here in Thailand, the migration studies that are going on in Bhutan, to try to understand the life history of these fish so that they can be better protected. This is a small telemetry study we did in northern Thailand, tagging primarily migratory catfish along the Mekong River in northern Thailand. We see community involvement, communities who are taking action to protect their local areas. And we see that here in Thailand with fish reserves, in Cambodia, in Laos. We also see it in the United States. So this is a photo taken in Lake Winnebago of lake sturgeon. So Lake Winnebago has the healthiest population of lake sturgeon anywhere in the world. And it's a very inspiring story because these lake sturgeon, they're incredibly long-lived. They can live for over 100 years. They're very vulnerable to overfishing. And yet the community in Wisconsin, where this lake occurs, decided in the 1950s to enact some protections for lake sturgeon. There is sustainable harvest allowed. That's actually occurring right now. It's actually people fish for these with pitchforks in the ice. So it's occurring for the next 2 weeks in Wisconsin. And there's a quota system. The numbers of fish are very closely regulated. And then the spawning areas of these fish are protected by sturgeon guards who will go out along the river during the spawning period of these fish and protect these areas to make sure these fish aren't poached. So this is a very inspiring story. Even for a vulnerable, long-lived fish, if people take action, it's possible to protect these fish. And then also technical approaches. I've talked a lot about dam building, but there is also a big movement toward dam removal and better dam siting and better dam operation and better dam design. And so some of these solutions, that slide turned out sideways, but this slide shows the Penobscot River, and some dams were removed along the Penobscot River, and it opened up vast areas for migratory fish that had been blocked for a long time because of dams. There are also policy solutions. In the US, we have something called the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act, which protects certain rivers from development. I'm going to be taking part next week in the Convention on Migratory Species, COP in India. This is a convention that's specifically designed to protect migratory fish, especially migratory animals, especially animals that cross international borders. Unfortunately, the Convention on Migratory Species, the countries in Southeast Asia are not parties to the convention. So Southeast Asian fish and Southeast Asian countries really need a mechanism like the convention to help manage these migratory fish that are moving between countries. And then finally, outreach and education. We'll be hearing, I think, tomorrow about an event that occurs every 2 years called World Fish Migration Day. It's an event that's designed to connect fish and people and rivers and educate people about the importance of fish and healthy rivers. I hope that all of you will think about participating in World Fish Migration Day. I believe it's May 16th of this year. Yeah, May 16th. And it's open to everybody. Everybody in this room can participate, sign up to host an event, so please consider doing so. The last event in 2018 was estimated to reach over 50 million people. And I know the organizers are hopeful that it'll reach even more people this next time around. I've also been involved with National Geographic with doing an exhibition on these big fish that is currently traveling around the US. Worked with NGOs in Cambodia to do fish guidebooks and coloring books for children, and hosted camps and awareness days. So what I'd encourage all of us to do, what I've learned through this work is that whether we're working locally or regionally, whether we're taking part in meetings like this or doing big mass media, for instance, like through National Geographic, we all have an opportunity to make our voices heard. And I would encourage all of you to be part of communicating the importance of freshwater fish conservation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Seth Hogan, for your kindly speech and share us about the research and your experiences. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the lunch is calling. Time for lunch. And the afternoon, it's going to be the session. And you're going to discuss together. And in the evening, we'll have the dinner party. It's the kind of cocktail dinner. And you will meet Ajahn Nat again with another lecturer from our university. She is, her name is Ajahn Phon. Will be gathering you and participate you, accompany you in that dinner. Dr. Apinan, do you want to speak something first? Okay. Before you go for lunch, you're gonna get your ticket first, ticket for lunch, at the receptionist desk in front of our room. Okay. For this morning, I'm Dr. Napat Ranapakun from Digital Communication and
อาจารย์นัทกนกวรรณสัมพันธ์
from Faculty of Rural Arts, MJU University. Thank you very much, and I will see you again tomorrow for Cultural Night. Okay, thank you. สวัสดีค่ะ